Folks, welcome to this edition. I know it's been one long year of Teardown that we've been doing, and I can see many familiar faces. So, welcome back to this edition as well. Thank you for being part of this journey. I know lots of you all have made transitions using this as a platform. But for everyone who's joined in newly, giving you a quick intro into the Product Folks. Product Folks is a volunteer driven organization. We've been around for 2.5 years now, probably India's largest product community today. We have lots of initiatives for budding product managers, for existing product managers, for people who are later in their careers as well. And we're very excited for everything that's coming in 2022. But for this particular edition, we're super excited to welcome Arnav and Spadika from Leap Finance and Leap Scholar team. Folks, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Our pleasure, Suhas. We're big fans of the work that you folks do here. So, absolutely my pleasure.
Thank you so much. For everyone who's here for the first time, um, this is the product teardown series wherein we wanted to follow what B schools do specifically, but for product management. And when we started, I think it was a tiny initiative partnered with a couple of companies on the way, including Dunzo, including Oyo, including Groffer. So some of the biggest consumer brands that you see there, wherein we were very lucky to get senior product leaders from their team to spend time with us, give real time problem statements, and even first time product managers trying to solve these problems, and those who are looking to break into product probably create a platform for them wherein there is no differentiation on pedigree, right? You don't need an MBA degree, you don't need a high tech B school degree or a tier one engineering degree to participate in this, right? So we are trying to create a platform where you can have some amount of proof of work based on based on which you can help enable start your careers in product. So that was the intention, and we've been doing this for the last 12 months. Lots of people who made transitions are super excited. And with that, would love to welcome Tanya Batra, who's my co-host for today's session. Welcome, Tanya.
Hi everyone. Thank you so much, Suhas. So a huge thanks to the team of Leap Scholar and Leap Finance as well. It was great collaborating for the whole month, working on the problem statement and then the decks and everything. So it was a great experience. So a little intro about Leap Scholar. So Leap Scholar supports future leaders from India in their quest to study at the best global schools. So they basically help the students who have the intentions of going outside to study, and they help in every stage of that particular process. So from test exams to finally getting a visa applications approved, Leap Scholar is the one that helps you all the way through. And today we have three people from their team. First is Arnav. Arnav is the co-founder of Leap Scholar, and he is a second-time entrepreneur with a venture capital stint in the middle. He is a graduate of IIT Kharagpur and started his career at Deutsche Bank. In his last role, he worked with SAIF Partners, India's leading venture capital fund, where he focused on consumer internet investing. He has also built GoZoomo, and Arnav will tell a bit more about himself with that.
Yeah, thanks so much, Tanya. So, you pretty much covered everything. The only thing you left is my claim to fame is I went to the same school as MS Dhoni. But yeah, I come from I was born and brought up in Ranchi, then went to Kharagpur, and yeah, I started my career with Deutsche Bank. Interestingly, I realized in 1.5 years that banking is not where I want to be. I'm much more at um I would say I bring my A game when I'm working with people and working on products to solve sort of user business problems, and that's what I've been doing for the past 10 odd years now. So started my career after Deutsche Bank with a startup, learned everything that I pretty much know about consumer internet business models, product marketing, and everything in between at the startup. And then did my own venture, raised 2 rounds of capital for that, then became a VC, and now building sort of Leap. Maybe a little bit more about Leap would be that we started roughly 2 years back, and the idea being that we started with the belief that irrespective of where you come from, there's a global career waiting for everyone, and we see this very strong desire for in sort of students and professionals across India, Southeast Asia, to sort of study and work at the best places globally. So that was the motivation with which we started sort of Leap, helping everyone to fulfill their potential in a global marketplace and in a sort of global education space. And our journey has been pretty sort of interesting. The space that we are in, we often compare it to a pregnancy because you have to carry the student for a fairly long amount of time before the student succeeds. It's not a flash in the pan transaction. It's not a transaction that closes in one sale and then you can sort of wipe your hands off it. It's a journey of several months, which requires us to build products which have high retention, high engagement throughout for several months, which is a challenge in itself. So we started out with, and we have had an interesting journey that our product suite has expanded. Today we have a very very comprehensive suite that helps the student across the journey. So right from owning sort of we now have the largest community of international students globally with more than 1 million members, which is a starting point for many students to come and sort of seek advice on where they should go, where their peers are going, where the seniors went to. So right from that point of starting research to saying, okay, I need to prepare for like everyone who's going sort of to study in a global school needs to give a few tests, and that's again where we come in, where we help students. Last year we held more than 100,000 students in our first sort of year in with their test prep, and Spadika here obviously has led and built that whole vertical as the business and product lead. So, as I said, sort of community to discover like-minded people and seniors. Then you have a test-based product. Then you have a counseling platform where students then like figure out which schools to apply to and how to go about making that application. And then financing, because financing is one major sort of impediment in students realizing their goals of studying in a top school. So that's where Leap Finance comes in, helping sort of students with a 10x better financing product. And then we have gone further into helping students with careers after they've gone abroad. So we have this broad suite of products, and we have to, which means that sort of product intensity is like we have to be really at the top of our game, because we have a wide suite of products where we have to ensure engagement and retention and acquisition across this funnel. So it's a very interesting product problem that we have been working on. And yeah, so far so good.
Thank you so much, Arnav. Thank you for taking out the time to join us today. In fact, we know how busy you are. So next we have with us today is Spadika. Spadika is the product and business lead at Leap. She has previously worked at McKinsey and Company as a management consultant, and she's an LLB graduate from National Law School of India. Thank you so much for coming here, Spadika, and it has been great collaborating with you all through the month even.
Thanks, Tanya. It's great to be here. I know I gave you a lot of trouble during the whole month, but it was really nice seeing all the decks, all the hard work that all of you put in. It also gave us a lot of external great perspective on the product that we built. Also, really appreciate the product folks. I come from a pretty non-traditional background into product. So I really love the community that all of you have built and how you're helping more and more people learn more and break into this career. So good to be here.
Awesome. We also have a third speaker for the day who will be joining us soon. So we'll be introducing him when he joins us. So before we start, I would like to introduce the problem statement for the people who would be hearing it for the first time. So the problem statement we had for this month was that the typical IELTS aspirant prepares heavily for the IELTS exam for a period of 2 to 4 weeks. The core offering of Leap Scholar is that they have a 4-week crash course with live classes. However, they get a significant number of users who attend the free demo class who would be taking the IELTS exam 6 months to a year later. The people who attend the demo class explore what the IELTS exam is about. So the problem statement was that how can the Leap IELTS app continue to engage these users until they are ready to invest time in the crash course? So on that statement, the finalists have worked, and now they'll be presenting their decks for the same.
Awesome.
Over to
Thanks
you,
for
Suha.
sharing. Yeah, thanks so much for sharing that, Tanya. Anna, Spadika, just before we get started, two things we'd love to cover. One is, I think our participants, everyone who joined in today, would love to hear a little more about the journey, right? Hey, why are you interested in what you're building? And I know I remember having this conversation with Spadika just before she joined Leap Scholar as well, right? So you've grown a lot in the last 1.5 years. So I think that perspective on what keeps you excited about building these products. I know we're probably trying to help a lot of folks build global careers here, right? That's a broader vision. What keeps you excited? We'd love to hear that angle. And second, on the problem statement that you have shared today, that Tanya just read out, I think on that, if we can share with the participants what are the things that we're looking for, right? Hey, these are the things that we'll be looking for in today. We want to keep it very, very tight. It's going to be 10 minutes where they get to present, so they can focus on that. So would love to hear from either of you, both of you, on both these points.
And let Spadika lead that.
Go for it.
Cool. As Arnav mentioned, right, we have a broad a broad suite of products catering to this whole study abroad segment, and the journey of a student while they think about going abroad to them actually going and succeeding is a long one. So test prep comes relatively early in that journey. So it is one of the first touch points of Leap with this with the user, right? So it's an opportunity to really build something that users love, and build a Leap brand as a result. So that's always exciting. As any consumer PM, you kind of thrive on like the ratings on App Store or the hearts, and the love that users give. So that's personally what really motivates me. I'm always thinking about what our users would be delighted by, and what would they really at the core, what would solve their problem, and getting an opportunity to build that at a relatively blank canvas has been super exciting. uh, I don't know, do you want to say something?
No, sorry, I'm good.
Okay.
Like your journey has been far more impressive. So happy, and I think it will be more relevant for sort of people in the session. So happy to play the second fiddle. Yeah, what keeps I think I'll just probably answer the question Suhas posed. I think what's exciting for any product manager or any business manager is moving metrics, and I think a great framework for all the best products which have been built. And you folks should read Paul Graham if you haven't. If you're breaking into product management, read Paul Graham. Read everything Paul Graham has written. I don't think there's any book that comes close, remotely close to actual insight on building products as compared to Paul Graham's essays. Um, One thing Paul Graham says is like startups are all about growth, which means that you have to grow at a certain pace week on week and day on day to even sort of justify the tag of being a startup, right? So I think for any business builder or a product builder, I think it's a great framework. Like excitement comes from moving metrics. As long as your metrics are sort of moving well, that is super exciting. And that's why product is interesting because you get immediate feedback. Like you get to know on a sort of hourly and daily and a weekly basis on what's happening with your user. It's unlike many things, for example, sales. And I love sales, but the thing about sales is your feedback cycles are long, right? So product is very interesting, and that's the right way to draw motivation for any product manager is, hey, how are my metrics moving? So one benchmark we, for example, have at Leap is that if you're a product manager owning a metric, you should, if I wake you up at 3 a.m. at night, you should at night you should be able to tell me the top three metrics and where were they last week and where are they this week. As long as that's happening, I think life is exciting. So yeah, that's why building products is super exciting to me. It will always be. But read Paul Graham. Yeah.
Absolutely no. I think I did share the link to Paul Graham's. I think very very popular set of essays. Great reads for people looking to break in early stage in their career. And now one question I have for you. Paul Graham's essays are great. Probably as a starting point for people, to understand this is a space. But how much does this deviate from practicality? Do you see, hey, reading these and applying these, do you see deviation there, or do you see, hey, okay, these are practical learning that he shared from his career, and
Yeah, I
how do you
think
feel?
Paul Graham is exceptional because he's been a builder all his life. Like he was one of the first.
Right.
I think he wrote the Lisp language or he worked on the Lisp language very early on, and then he has been a builder, and then he built Y Combinator. So I think and then at Y Combinator he has seen some of the biggest companies grow from nothing, right? Like Airbnb saw from day minus 90, then so many companies. So I think all of Paul Graham's wisdom is actually very, very deeply rooted into practicality. And the interesting thing is that he's not tactical because tactics change every 6 months, right? Like what's hot in acquisition this month might not be hot enough in sort of 12 months time, right? Today, TikTok might be the greatest acquisition channel. Uh, Maybe 6 months later, it's something else. And again, tactics differ from company to company and product to product. Some products will have a referral cycle, some of them won't. So tactical advice is actually not as useful, but strategic advice that will stand the test of time over decades and many decades to come actually are probably the right things to keep in mind because they'll be time tested and they'll always be true. It's almost like first principles, right? So there's no startup in the world which will say, hey, week on week growth is not good as a North Star metric. Week on week growth will, irrespective of what you're building, even if your sales cycles are longer, whatever, you have to find proxy metrics which you can move week on week and track week on week. So I think most of Paul Graham's advice is actually very, very, very practical, and these are not tactical, these are strategic, but very, very they have held the test of time and they will continue to. For example, as I said, startup is equal to growth. I think that's probably the most phenomenal essay for any product manager, operator to understand what does growing startups means. Or there's another essay he has on chef's blindness, which talks about how you some of the greatest startup ideas come from spaces that nobody wants to touch. That hey, this is so unsexy, so boring, so irritating, that those are the places that most people don't look at, and that is sometimes where the best startups come from. Like Stripe came from there. Like nobody wanted to touch this. Yeah, who is going to build like 500 APIs with different sort of banks and payment providers and all of that? And Stripe is not a new idea, right? Like payment processing. Oh, I want to build a payment processor. It's the oldest, dumbest, unsexiest idea in the world. But I think what again Paul Graham says is that if you look deeply enough, you will always you'll discover nooks and crannies that are not sexy, but will lead to phenomenal business opportunities. And then it's about execution. Like Stripe is Stripe because of the culture they have built and the product that they've built, and the scale of their ambition is scary. So I think all of Paul Graham's essays are very, very. He has another essay on how earnestness is the most important characteristic for success. Like if your earnest is like 90% of the job done, and that for example, that's one of the things we look at while hiring. Like it's how earnest you are is a great indicator of hiring good talent. So I think I have not read a single Paul Graham essay where I felt कि अरे क्या लिख दिया है इसने, क्यों लिखा है. All of those are like so deeply seeped into wisdom and practical wisdom that I think is very relevant.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for sharing that, Arnav. I think that helps. I think there's lots of content on the internet today. So I think that helps us at least, hey, okay, this is separating the signal from that noise. Spadika, maybe this question to you on today's session. On the problem statement, what are we looking at? What do our finalists focus on?
Cool. So we'll be grading largely on 5 factors. The first would be research. Basically, how well have you understood the problem statement and the personas, and basically the problem that the app is trying to solve. The second is product sense, which is just generally how good are the product solutions that have been suggested. The third is the scope of impact. So, have you just given sort of minor suggestions, or have you made some bigger, bolder suggestions that can lead to larger impact? The fourth would be viability of the solutions. So, as a product manager, you're always thinking about trade-offs. You're thinking about prioritization. So, have you put on that hat and been able to think about it? And the fourth would be general energy and how fun it is to listen to you.
Perfect. So sorry, I was on mute. Thanks for sharing, Spadika. With that, folks, we are ready to go. Hope everyone is excited. I'll quickly share my screen. I do have a spinner wheel as always. Let me know when you can see my screen. We have a finalist for today. Daniel, Weber, Nishit, and Ashish will be presenting together in Pearl. To make it super fair, we've just added the names to a random spinner wheel, and whoever comes on the spinner wheel will be our first participant to come up on stage and present. I think Pearl Ashman Wheel says you're on stage, so you're up next. Do raise your hand and we will bring you on stage. Perfect. I've just given you access. Let me know. Yes. Perfect. Pearl, you're on stage. If you could please turn on your video and share your screen. Awesome. Welcome, Pearl. You're our first participant for today.
Greetings,
So I'll
guys.
quickly walk you
Just
through the
sharing
rules.
my
Also,
screen.
one. Yeah. Meanwhile, you can just try sharing your screen once again. I'll just give you a couple of pointers. First up is on the timing. This will be a strict 10-minute timing. We will give you a heads up at maybe at the 8-9 minute mark. But at the 10th minute, whichever slide you are on, that will be your last slide. So you can time your session that way. Spadika did share what you can focus on as well. That will be number one. Number two, post that 10 minutes, our mentors, our judges for today's session will have 2 to 5 minutes to ask you some questions based on your slides. This is applicable to everyone, so I'm taking some time to share that. These are two main things. And yeah, that's it. All the best for your presentation. If you could just test sharing your screen and your audio, we could get started.
Sure. Are you able to hear me, guys?
We can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. We can see your screen as well. Would this be your first slide? Learn that. Product
Yeah.
data.
You can
Perfect.
start
We can
typing,
see you.
guys.
Awesome. This looks great. All the best, Pearl. Time is exactly 17:30. Next 10 minutes are yours. Take it off.
Thank you. So, greetings, judges, the Leap Scholar team, the product folks team. I'm Pearl. I'm from Lady Sriram College. I'm a stats student, and here I'm today to present my product Teardown for the IELTS Prep app. So, the problem statement which we'll be tackling today is that we have to improve the engagement rate of the students who are planning to take IELTS in the next 6 to 12 months. So first we'll be looking at the user persona. So for these students, first of all, they feel that the IELTS speaking and the writing sections are the toughest. Generally, they are burdened with their college studies and they want passive learning with less time commitment. They find it very difficult to stay committed and they are very skeptical of the online courses. So this is the user journey analysis for the masterclass. So when the user enters the app, he feels confused about what topics are the masterclass really on and would the masterclass be of good quality. Then they feel skeptical as mostly the masterclasses are promotional in nature and very introductory. So many masterclass options confuse the user and then they feel that there is no structure, there is no sense to attend a random masterclass with a random topic in it and there will be no structure then. So then they shift their attention to replace as they feel that the masterclass have a very, a lot of time commitment. So now I would be addressing the user pains of the masterclass. Number one is the quality uncertainty. So there can be a details button on the masterclass banner which can specify the teacher credential and give limited access to the presentation which generally accompanies the masterclass. So over here, why I'm giving limited access is because PPT is a precursor to the class quality and the topics covered would also be clear to the student. Secondly, the problem of the masterclass feeling like unstructured. The details page can state that these are independent and no prerequisite masterclasses. And for a more structured course, the users can upgrade to the fast track course. High time commitment issue. So there can be an app guide. So this is a new feature. The app guide can introduce weekly streaks. Again, weekly streak is a new feature and a nudge can be there stating that one masterclass per week for 6 months can make the user good to go and take your first step towards IELTS by starting your weekly streak. Again, why I've kept weekly streaks is because weekly streaks have a lower time commitment perception than daily streaks, and this can help the user to be motivated. Fourth, the bonus feature personalized masterclass recommendation. As per the section, speaking, writing, whichever the user specifies to be hardest in the pre activation form or the pre quiz. Second, the user journey analysis for the speaker room. The user accidentally enters a non-IELTS room, then switches back to an IELTS room, but then the host all of a sudden ends the call after just 1 minute. Then the user goes to another room but feels confused about what topic is the discussion on and feels very nervous to speak. Then the value proposition of the speaking room is also very unclear. As being a newbie, they don't know how speaking evaluations are done and how speaking room is helpful. So addressing these pain points. First pain point of poor quality user experience. So IELTS and non-IELTS room categorization in separate apps. As you will see, generally mostly non-IELTS room have more speakers and more participants and they get displayed on top, hampering the user experience. Secondly, the host should specify the termination time 5 minutes in advance so that no new users are admitted then. Second problem is hesitation to speak. So there should be mandatory pinning of the topic on which users are invited by the hosts in the chat box. A nudge can be there motivating the users to try to speak to improve their confidence, and a button of ready to speak in 5 or 10 or 15 minutes should be there. This button will improve the speaker participation rate. Then the problem of poor quality of speaking practice. So for this is an engagement improvement feature. We can put in place a host feedback system for the attendees before they quit the speaking room. So the feedback data points will allow the app to rank the rooms according to the host quality, which will improve the user experience. Then the user journey analysis for the Learn tab. So the user finds the first module very easy and unhelpful, scrolls down to find some good module which is not that easy and introductory, as quiz-based learning is just the passive learning user wanted. So they're willing to give Learn tab a try. But then the user gets confused between so many options, attempts one good quality module, but the next day user does not come back, since the cognitive load to find right module for the user is very high. So this is the recommended solution for unhelpful content. Better content creation has to be there, as this is the preferred medium which the user wanting steady practice has. Then for a lot of options being there, we need a UX overhaul. So on the right side of the screen, the recommended UX has been presented. You can see that this has lesser cognitive load. Over here, the thumbnail of the best lesson should be displayed on top along with the start course button. So this thumbnail will be personalized as per the section, writing, speaking, etc. the user specifies to be hardest in the form. Now, under the recommended for use section, we will be having a horizontal scroll menu wherein the other helpful content will be displayed along with thumbnails. A horizontal scroll menu always reduces the cognitive load for the user. Then this is a summary. So I have taken a two-fold approach. I'm now explaining my approach, how I did come up with the following solutions. So I've taken a two-fold approach. First, in order to improve the engagement, first is the activation rate improvement, then is development of new engagement features. Both of them can help us to improve the engagement rate. So this is just a summary of all the features we have covered already. Now these are the additional features. First is the loading screen motivation. So loading screens can be used in order to highlight the value proposition of various features, and then to highlight the app achievements also, for building the trust in the user, and then for motivating the users to stay committed. An example of this can be that streak consistency has helped 90% of leap scholars get 7 plus bands. This will increase the utilization of the streaks. And then an app guide should be there for feature discovery and for nudging the users to move throughout the application journey and take the desired actions. For example, post the masterclass enrollment, app guide leads the user to the Learn tab and explains the value proposition of the Learn tab also, and then introduces them to the daily streak. So this app guide will make sure that the user take the desired actions. And problems like underutilization of the Learn tab or some features like streaks will also not be there, since users will be aware of them and they will be prompted to take the desired actions. Then here is a value effort matrix for product prioritization. So what we can see is the number one feature rank has been app guide for nudging and feature discovery. So the metrics this will affect is the activation rate, of course, as the user will be prompted to do everything, right? And the movement through the application journey. The feature which has been ranked, I'm sorry, the number two one has, okay, that's the loading pages. I'm sorry. The loading pages feature has been ranked number two. The metric which will it be affecting is stickiness, the time in app, and the day 7 and the day 30 retention. The feature which has been ranked number three is the masterclass details page with the presentation preview. It will be affecting the activation rate and the masterclass enrollments. And the other feature which has been ranked number three is the Learn tab UX, which I recommended. So with a horizontal thumbnail scroll for the few best modules. The metrics which it will be affecting is the feature drop-off rate, the time in app, right. And the features which have been ranked number four are the weekly master streaks and the top listing of the hosts which have better attendee feedback. So this will help to improve the engagement.
Pearl, just a heads up, you have 2 minutes to go. So just okay, you're done. That's perfect. Okay,
Thank you, judges.
awesome,
Yeah,
awesome.
I'm
Bang
done
on
with
time,
my
man.
presentation.
Yeah,
Yeah, thank you,
perfect.
judges, and I'm now open for questions.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Pearl. I think thanks for keeping it on time. Spadika, Arnav, any question? I know Pranal, welcome Pranal. I think you just joined in. Probably loop you in from the next one. But Arnav, Spadika, over to you in case you have any question.
And let Spatika take the lead.
Sure. So, Paul, nice presentation. Loved how you wrapped everything up right on time, and I really liked the energy as well. Also, thought the persona was quite spot on. It felt like you really understood the psychology of the user who's coming into the app. What I thought, where I was a little confused was towards the end, where you tied in all your recommendations, right? Given the problem statement was on retention, a lot of your solutions was focused on activation and discovery of features, etc. So if you could just go back and take a look, and if you could place one bet on this is going to improve the retention of this user the most, what would it be?
Right. So why I told you I took a twofold approach.
Mm-hmm.
First is the activation rate. The second is the development of new engagement features.
Mm-hmm.
What I have done over here is you would, being a person who is probably aiming to study abroad in a few years, you can say in 1 or 2 years, I know that I would not be interested to take the masterclass or go through the Learn tab just right away. I'd be like, I'd be postponing it. So I would install the app, but I would not explore the features in detail. I would just give it a glimpse and then be, keep it in my mind, take a note of doing that when the right time arrives. So the problem over here with those people who want to take IELTS after 6 months is they have very poor activation rate. They have no motivation at all to go through the entire application journey. Right. That is the problem. Once they have a taste of what the quality of the master class is, what the Learn tab can offer them, how good they can become in speaking when they start attending the speaking room sessions, then our engagement features will come into play. First, we need activation features for them because they're not motivated at all to go through the entire application journey. That is why you will find that the number one feature was the app guide for nudging them through the entire application journey to make them take the desired actions.
Got it. Cool.
Spadika, does that tie back with the data that you have?
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. It's quite logical.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Arnav,
Well, if
Pranil
you
from
have
Untitled. Yeah.
if so so Pearl, like actually in real life scenario, you'll never have the time to build like all the features that you wanted. So it's always very tempting to sort of look at sort of something and say ये भी कर देंगे 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 ये सब, right? In practicality, so you generally have to take a bet saying, hey, this is the one feature that will actually move my metric the most, because finally developer resource and sort of engineering resources and design resources will be very scarce. So can you tell me like which is the one feature that you would actually build?
Right. So there will be two. First is for
One, you have to
activation
tell,
rate.
but you have to tell me one.
Okay. The one I told you that the user wants passive learning, right? So Learn tab is just the right for the user. So there has to be a rehaul of the Learn tab, right? The app guide will lead the user to the Learn tab and then a better UX, which I recommended for the Learn tab with better quality content will allow the user to, the streaks will allow the user to stay consistent on the Learn tab, and then the UX will make sure that there is not much cognitive load on the user and they can explore all the modules.
Got it. Can you just simplify that answer to a one line statement that I can remember?
Right,
Like just one liner.
that is UX rehaul of the Learn tab. Right, there should be thumbnails and there should be horizontal scroll menu, not a vertical scroll menu, wherein in the beginning you have introductory lessons which the user finds absolutely unhelpful. All on the top there should be the best lesson which has to be displayed.
Interesting. Interesting.
Got it. Um, okay. I just have one final question. So, given that the problem statement is around retention, right? Retention generally is a problem statement for someone who has been activated, right? So, you activated someone and now you're trying to retain. sort of in your sort of view, what is the definition of activation here? Because after that, the retention journey will start, right? So, what is the definition of activation here that you have taken?
My perception of activation over here is that the user explores at least all the features of the app. If the user comes to the home page, explores the masterclass features, skips the learn tab feature, just glimpses on the speaking room features and does not attend the speaking room, then the user cannot set to be activated. That is how I define activation.
That's a very high bar for activation. So, ideally, you have to take a lower bar for activation. Like
Right.
activation could be okay, user does any one of these actions, or even sometimes even registration will be an activation feature, and then the journey. So I have time for one final question. I'm
Yes,
just
yes, we have
curious
five
to
minutes
ask
for
you.
the. No, no, please go ahead.
Got it. Yeah, Pearl, as per you, what is the golden flow? Like, let's say you had, like, forget about features and everything. What do you think? Let's say you have a magical wand and it can build any feature that you want within a minute, right? What is the golden flow for a user? That okay, user should come. You understand what a golden flow means, right? Like assuming
Ideally, how
corner
should the
cases हटा दो,
user?
हाँ, like remove the corner cases, remove all of that, remove limits of practicality कि यार ये feature कैसे बनेगा and we don't have space and whatever time and all of that. Remove all those practicalities. What is the golden flow for a user? कि okay, user should come, then do this, then do this, then do this. This would be the ideal journey for a highly retained user.
Right. Highly retained, very consistent on the weekly masterclass streaks. I've kept a weekly streak, right? A person who has to give IELTS after 6 months, he can attend one masterclass per week. And on the Learn tab, 5 to 10 minutes of exercise daily, and then speaking room practice. Right, daily 5 to 10 minutes of speaking room practice, and making sure that the streaks are retained.
नहीं, golden flow बताओ आप, like okay, user comes, installs the app, then the user does this, then the user does this, then the user does this. If the
User
user does these
installs the
actions,
right.
then the
User
user will
ins-
end up being a highly retained user.
User installs the app, comes to the masterclass page, goes to the masterclass details, sees the presentation preview which accompanies the masterclass, feels that yeah, the quality is good and yes, I can give it a try, enrolls for the masterclass. Then the app guide leads the user to the Learn tab, and then he sees a recommended course on the top. So he just clicks on Start Course. Then he attempts a 5-minute module. After attending that module, the app guide leads the user to the speaking room. In the speaking room, on the categorization of IELTS and non-IELTS room is there. He enters into an IELTS room. On the chat, in the chat box, the topic which on which the speakers are invited has already been pinned. Then a nudge appears asking the user to start speaking so that they can become more confident and speak flawlessly in IELTS. Then the user selects the button ready to speak in next 10 minutes, and then the user unmutes themselves and speak. The user quits. The user provides host feedback as well, that yeah, the host quality was good. And according to the host feedback only, we will be ranking the rooms and not according to how many live participants are there.
Got it. ठीक है, I'll just I don't know whether this is the time to give suggestion, but I'll just give one final suggestion because you're learning product generally. Generally, the way to build a good high engagement product will be to identify a simple workflow which will lead to high engagement. Like just to give you an example, this is a very famous analogy from Facebook. When you go and read Facebook's journey, that like they identify that people who come and add 10 friends in the first 3 days end up becoming highly retained users, right? So once you've identified a golden path for your highly engaged users, then you can just double down on getting more people into that flow. So just like the flow that you mentioned, this was a very long flow which won't sort of, that's very hard to achieve. Ideal would be to identify a simpler flow saying okay, user comes this, user does this action and then this action, which means that the user, generally people who do these two actions will get retained. And let's now try to figure out features. So the product features that you will build actually will be how to get more and more and more people into this golden flow, which will lead to automatic sort of retention, sort of more and more retention later. That's like another way to sort of think about it. And then getting cues on, okay, if people who are doing this are getting retained, how can I fulfill the same job to be done in other via other features also, right?
Right. Got that. Got that.
So yeah, but I
Thanks
think
for the
your analysis
suggestions.
was quite thorough. Cool. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Pearl. All the best. And great presentation. Just before we bring in our next participant, would love to introduce Pranil. Tanya, over to you. He just joined in, so we can do a quick 2 minute intro.
So, guys, like I mentioned before, the third judge for the day is Pranil Bafna. He is currently the director of product at Leap Scholar, and he has previously been associate director of PM at Ola and lead PM at Upstocks. He is an IIT Bombay BTech and MTech graduate, and also the co-founder and senior PM at Zopkey, which was acquired by Gumo. Over to you, Pranil.
Hey,
Share a little
thanks.
about your journey.
Cool. Hey, thanks, Tanya, for that intro. Right, I'm not sure what to add there, but yeah, I've been sort of enjoying my stint as a product guy forever for the last 7, 8 odd years. I think it's the most fun of a role in general. Yeah.
Nice. Pranil, what's the most exciting thing for you to be building at Leap Scholar today? What is probably the most exciting challenge for you?
Sure. I think the most exciting challenge is what we are discussing today. Is do you typically you have users across different stages of their own study abroad journey? How do you engage these users overall? Yeah, I think that's the most exciting piece we are looking to solve at Leap Scholar, and that is something that we have put across here as well.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Pranil. Hopefully, some interesting ideas that come out of today's discussion.
Yeah,
And
looking forward to that.
awesome. With that, folks, we move on to introducing our second team. I'll quickly share my screen and we'll do the wheel spin. Pearl, great presentation. All the best. Next up, we have Nishit and Ashish. So, folks, in case you're ready, love to invite you on stage. If you could please raise your hand, I'll allow Nishit. And just a second, Ashish.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you. Welcome, Nishit. Nishit, we can see you.
Hi everyone on the panel.
Awesome. Thanks for joining in. Ashish is here as well. Same rules apply, not repeating. That we can see you. Out of the two of you who will be sharing your screen, if you could just test that, would be awesome.
Absolutely.
And Nishit, Ashish, maybe you all can take 30 seconds also to introduce yourselves while you're starting off, right? So the participant and our judges know a little bit about you. Keep it restricted to about 30 seconds. But yeah, I mean, we'll add that to the time. So you'll get 30 seconds extra, maybe
Sure.
11 minutes. We can see your screen. If you could just share the slides again.
Sure.
Yeah, full screen.
That's fine.
Perfect. We can see your
Okay.
slides. Time is about 17:53, 10 minutes
Okay.
from here. It's yours.
Sure.
All the best, Nishit.
Sure.
All the best,
Yeah.
Ashish.
So my name is Nishit and I work as a product manager at UFiber. So it has been a great journey of being a product manager. One thing I want to add in that is that every day I do get to do different things. So that is something that I like the most. Ashish, over to you.
Yeah, so I've graduated just now this May only, and I've started working as a product manager at textbook.com since June. I'm getting to know a lot of different things. Every day I go, I see people working on different kind of tools. Uh, in a gist, I can say that this field keeps pinching on me to learn even more. And this thing previously when I was into data science, I used to feel that every day there are new topics coming up. But in this field always keeps me at the edge of my seat, and it's very interesting for me. So let's just start with this presentation. So the overview of the problem is to engage users for around 6 months to an year until they come to the sweet spot of buying the crash course. So this is very interesting part that we need to retain users from 6 months to 1 year, and we have assumed that through user interviews and articles online that a typical aspirant requires only 6 to 12 weeks for IELTS preparation. And he might also be preparing for other exams like GRE and GMAT as well.
To talk about the customer empathy, this is what the first slide had. It is for average customer who is a little proficient in English from at a higher end to the average end, like the top end. So what do they think usually is that they think it's not very good to invest a lot of amount in the IELTS preparation. They also think that 1 to 2 months of preparations is enough, and they don't think they need personal guidance. Like one-to-one guidance is something that they don't need. On the other hand, if you talk about the people who are on the lower end, that is from average to the lower end, they think that one-on-one guidance is very important. They also think that 2 to 8 months of preparation is something that would really help them prepare very well and score very well. And they don't hesitate in investing a lot of amount for IELTS preparation as well. So if you bring everything under one roof, this is what we can see from average to very high end, right? This is what they need, right? And the value proposition that we at Leap Scholar provide matches very close to these guys, right? So this is what our focus is. Ashish, over to you.
Yeah. So in order to deep dive more about the users, let's discuss in depth what characteristics they have. So Mrunmay here has been actively participating in language competitions since school time and is quite proficient in English. However, she has a problem in choosing an optimal platform because there are a lot of options available online. She also wants to know the exact strategy and tricks in order to build exam temperament, and she finds it a bit harder to have consistent routine for IELTS because she might also be preparing for other exams. But Arvind, on the other hand, even though he's academically good, but has a medium proficiency in English, he thinks that he'll need some significant amount of time in order to prepare for IELTS. The wide span of test sections like reading, speaking, etc., the effort needed in the entire application process are some pain points that Arvind faces. Dikshant represents users with low proficiency and is intimidated by English as a subject. He just wants to clear the basic required cutoff. And even Dikshant wants to deal with exam strategies and is also troubled by various sections IITS has. And Chetan is just basically preparing for immigration exam. And that is why we won't be discussing more about Chetan. But it's just that some people like Chetan might come to the platform also. So just to prioritize personas, Munmay and Arvind are the users that we'll be targeting since they are likely to engage more for possibly longer durations of time. So the first solution is to use the internal trigger of users and create a tracking process. So users shall receive real-time gratification and are more likely to chase completion. They can track their work in different sections of exam and work more smartly and efficiently. This bar would be calculated based on the engagements that we already have in the app. So the total number of questions solved and the duration of relevant videos consumed, and we'll be calculating a normalized score to mark all the progress bars. In the second solution, we'll be gamifying the entire experience a bit. So badges shall provide a direction for the user to engage and improve over the app. The users would have to basically collect badges, and a leaderboard shall enable users to check standing in real time and also check out how much work their peers are putting in. So here, along with an internal trigger to collect badges, there is also an external trigger about what the peers are doing, and basically badges would be the profile. So if I want to see Arvind's profile, who is first in the leaderboard, I'll move on to Arvind's badges, and then I can come to a point where I can compare my progress with Arvind's. So this is the ideal retention flow that the user opens app, explores offerings, finds values in the offerings, then he invests time and effort, and then receives gratification. And if this loop goes into continuation, we'll be able to retain the user for longer periods of time. So a significant investment of time and effort is required to take complete benefit and the value propositions offered by IELTS. Here, the progress bar would serve as a gratification touch point as it provides sense of completion, and the leaderboard would enable users to compare themselves to other users in a more healthy way.
So this is how the entire journey of a user looks like. So here's where the user takes the test, and this is what the steps the user ideally takes in order to reach there, right? So now the problem statement is something like we have to engage them for 6 to 12 months. So now, since our persona research told us that these people don't like to invest more than 1 to 2 months, right? So we thought, directly adding value only towards preparation is something that would be a little counterproductive. So we thought of in a different direction. We thought of giving some indirect value. Along with some direct value, we also thought of giving some indirect value. So how can we do that? We thought of creating master classes for all these topics, right? Profile buildings, all these topics. We thought of creating master classes. And these master classes are not very simple. They have 9 hours, 7 hours, 15 hours, like that. There'll be a lot of classes, basically, a lot of classes that are combined into a courses to give them all encompassing knowledge about these topics, right? So that is one plan. And the second plan is to give them daily updates about the relevant news. So talking to a lot of people, we got to know that a lot of people have FOMO. They feel like they are missing out on some information. They also feel a little bit overwhelmed about these processes when it comes to applying to a foreign university. And solving all these things, we thought giving them a daily news update would be definitely beneficial for them, and would help them reduce all these negative emotions that come their way. And impact of these indirect solutions is what I think is that we'll be bringing a lot of people on our platform from YouTube as well, right? So because now we have everything on our platform, we are giving them value in an all-encompassing manner. So a lot of people would come on our platform. In addition to that, if there are more people, there'll be more engagement, there'll be more conversions as well. I would like to add one more point is that we already have a lot of engagement features that are there. So these things are only going to get compounded if we have more users on the platform, like group live calls and discussion community. They are only going to get compounded if we have more users. So let's talk about the prioritization.
Yes. So for prioritization, we have considered 3 points. The first one is relevance to goal, which means by how much points shall the solution drive our metric, whichever metric we are considering. And the second point is the number of users affected by the solution. That is basically impact. And third is the overall effort, even the development effort, or in, let's say, in case of masterclass, there will be effort to create good quality content. So based on these three things, uh, we think that the new masterclass plus news section should be a top priority, because it provides value throughout the journey. And since we have that challenging problem where the amount of the time required to prepare is lesser, but we need to keep users engaged for more time, so we can provide extra value. And as between leaderboard and badges and user progress tracking, we feel that user progress tracking is because of an internal trigger. So if the user is not motivated enough, this feature won't work clearly. But leaderboard plus badges have two triggers. One is internal, and one comes from intrinsic motivation. Other comes from extrinsic motivation. So now basically the flow is that first we engage the users, we make sure that they are retained, and then we want them to buy our crash courses. So all the three aspects, we want to measure all the three aspects and know whether we are doing right or not. So engagement, there are two parts. What is the overall, like, change in engagement of the app, and second is how what is the change in metrics as far as only the prioritized solution is concerned. So for prioritized solution, we'll be checking visits per user, CTRs per video, and enrollments in master classes per user. And for retention, we'll be mainly checking week-wise retention cohorts to check the drop-off rates between consequent weeks. So if we feel that there is more drop-off in any two consequent weeks, we'll be able to catch the exact moment where the user are dropping off, and then try and optimize. At the same time, we also want to check the terminal rate of retention cohorts, because at the end of the day, this is what we want, that maximum number of users are retained at the end of, let's say, 5 or 6 weeks. So that terminal rate is very important. So uh, for revenue, there will be general metrics like average revenue per user and customer lifetime value, along with time to convert them. So this was it.
Cool, Nishit, Ashish. I really liked how you guys took a step back and looked at the overall user journey and what we can build beyond just the features that we already have. And so I like the scope of the impact. I liked how I think the user journey flow was also quite beautiful, right? Like that you first get some value, then you get gratified the more you invest time, and then you keep coming back. Where I'm a bit thrown off is in your persona categorization, which I thought was very good, based on English skills. Why did you decide to focus on the persona who's anyway going to prepare for only 2 to 4 weeks? Because we have our crash courses for them, right? It's the other persona whose English is not so good, who wants to give their exam 8 months away, who we really want to retain. So why did you make that choice? And if you had to rethink now on what we should do to retain this user, what would your
Right.
answer be?
Right,
So the
Ashish,
thing is
you might
that
want to take
while
that.
making these personas, we thought of validating them again by talking to the users that we had interviewed in order to find more about this problem. So what they said was that if I'm more intimidated especially for English subject. Instead of putting more effort into increasing my speaking skills, etc., what I'll do is I'll score more in GMAT. I'll play on my strong subjects in quant, etc. And in order to clear just these language exams, I'll make sure that I just clear the cutoff. So when we ask them that, if we tell you that there is a hypothetical way to, let's say I'll give you four, let's say I'll give you 6 weeks, and I'll tell you there is this way. If you walk on this path, your English would be top class. Would you be taking that path? Then the user said that no, they'll be focusing on other exams only, and for these exams they'll just be willing to clear the cutoff.
I'd like to add one more point to that. So there were a few users who also told us that we will need a personal trainer. We'll need something that is very in connect with us. So giving them online classes or maybe something that is in cohort based is not something that these kind of users would prefer if they want to score really well. So that was one point that came to us as well.
Got it. Got it. Cool.
Pranil, do you have any questions on this day?
Yeah. Hey, so thanks for that presentation, Nishit, Ashish. I had the two key takeaways were basically your different variants of master classes to look at users across different stages in the life cycle they are, and the second one was a leaderboard. I was not able to build back a clear user insight that was helping me conclude that these are the two key takeaways, right? So just help me probably build that story again.
Yes, we would like to also share the screen while we are discussing this. Is it okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so the context to the leaderboard solution is that uh, students, while they are preparing for abroad exams, it's not like their parents are asking them to prepare. It's something that is coming from intrinsic motivation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is the first insight that we got from interviews.
Yeah.
So what badges, first of all, uh, badges make you realize that there are these list of activities that you can do in order to progress. At the same time, leaderboards makes you realize what your peers are doing. So as a user, when I am seeing my profile, I can see that, let's say Ashish's profile, I can see, let's say 8 badges are complete, others are not complete, and my rank comes around to be 205. And now I want to check what is that guy who is first in the leaderboard doing, what
Mm.
activity he is doing that his English is progressing in faster rate than me. Then I go and check into his profile. I see that okay, these kind of badges is completed them. But then I shift my focus to completing only those sort of badges.
No, Ashish, I'm clear on how at a very conceptual level it is going to help, right? I'm trying to find out that if I have to make a decision, hey, let's build a leaderboard,
Hmm.
I'm trying to be more convinced, hey, this is the user insight that helps us probably take this leaderboard. Because see, uh, when you go into sort of translating this into a product, you may want to come back, hey, should your badges be focused on regularity of doing task in terms of discipline? This could
Right,
be, could this, should these badges be focused on a how much does a user actually score, right?
right, right.
Things like these, right? So
Hmm.
what I'm trying to come back is I'm still not able to build a clear user insight. Say for example, a user insight is hey, I'm really struggling, I want to prepare for IELTS, but maybe somehow I am not disciplined at it, right? And that is where probably I could say ki, let's say leaderboard with regularity badges is probably a first baby step in that direction to solve for that problem. So I'm looking
Right.
for a user insight of that sort that sort of convinces me, hey, this is a great initiative to invest in. Yeah, so that's the missing link I'm talking about, Ashish.
Actually, you might want to talk about the flow that we had.
Uh, so according to, so you mean that there are a few use cases which the users might face, and depending on those cases, we would be able to build badges, right?
No,
So
that's the next step of it. When you've made your choice that you have to build badges, right? First, I'm looking for that convincing why I should build the badges.
Like,
Uh,
why is the leaderboard the solution for this user's this particular problem? Like, broadly, we get it. Leaderboard is a good gamification tactic. Everybody uses leaderboards.
right.
But in this case, how is it solving the problem?
what's the core user problem it's solving, right? That's what I'm trying to come to.
I think it's first thing is that it's giving the user a direction, because there are a lot of things the user can engage into. The first thing is that, let's say we have a badge where we say solve 5 questions. and you'll get this badge. So in a way, I'm giving the user a direction so that he can take baby steps towards completing his preparation. That
Sure.
is first point.
Okay. Right. So
And
hey, so then this is more like a goal where you're trying to create a path for the user
right,
through
right,
badges. Right.
right. And then
Okay.
it gamifies using the leaderboard. Everything gets gamified using leaderboard.
ठीक है. Got it, Ashish. Good.
Awesome. So, probably going a little deeper on that leaderboard might have helped Nishit, Ashish, but it's a fair point, right? I think good job done. I know it was only a very tiny, brief period where you'll have to research the entire app. Maybe the first time you're using the app as well. But maybe what Spadika and Pranil, and I know Arnav is also a huge believer of this, is maybe just taking that extra step, thinking about it before you build, right? End of the day, today's principle is, hey, maybe it's not as hard to build it, but the time spent on maybe, that tech debt on building. So you can build as many features as you want, but maybe spending a little bit more time. I think that's a place where they are also coming from. And hey, can we go a little deeper on how this leaderboard helps? Number one. Number two is probably this the best way. Maybe leaderboard is one way, but when you start thinking about this, you might be like, okay, maybe leaderboard is not the best way to solve this. You might come up with something else. So maybe that's the only reason they were trying to go one level deeper on this. But yeah, with that great deck, all the best. I think both of you all have already cracked the product roles already in this space. So might be interesting to just keep practicing on lots more of these decks. I'm sure there's lots of learning on this as well, right? So thanks
Right.
for first of all for participating and all the best. I think
Yeah.
the answers come out really
Thank
nice.
you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Nishit.
Awesome.
Ashish.
Spinning the wheel just again. Let me know when you can see my screen. Awesome. We have Aurora, and last up we will have Daniel. Folks, for both of y'all are ready. If you could please raise your hand. I've already raised your hand. This time super smooth. Thanks so much. Baba is on stage. I did give him the save, but I don't think we can see you yet. Yep.
Hi everyone.
Hey, Baba.
Yeah,
Good to see you here. And
thank
looking
you.
forward to your deck to be very exciting and really being on point. There's extra pressure on you, you know why. But with that, no rules for you. You already know what to do. Next 10 minutes is yours. Stay right on time. And all the best.
Yeah,
If you
I'll
could share.
quickly present my screen. Yeah, can you folks see my screen?
We can, if you could go to the slide section. Full screen.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. All
Hi
the
everyone.
best. Wow.
Yeah,
Yep.
sorry.
All the go for it.
Yeah,
Go for
so
it.
I'll start now. Hi everyone. I'm Vaibhav. I'm a final year engineering undergrad student. I stumbled upon product management, and I'm trying to work my way through it. I'm thankful for TPF for organizing this combination, and thank you. And I really thank Leap for giving us this problem statement. I'll quickly start with the presentation now. So since I was looking from the outside, I started to understand the vision of Leap as a organization. I wanted to understand uh, the value proposition of essentially what the core user problem that they're solving for, and what is essentially their vision as a company. And what I gathered was that Leap is trying to build an all you need stack for international students, and which helps them meet their needs in the foreign lands, and currently building fintech and edtech solutions to help students achieve their dreams. uh, Essentially they're trying to build a community around international students, and where they can contribute to each other. And what is a better forum to talk about community building than the product folks. After this, I started to look into IELTS as an industry. I understood the exam. What are the different sections of the exam? How do students go about preparing for it? And these are some numbers. So we have around 1 million plus test takers in India. The approximate coaching tenure for the exam is around 2 months. The tutoring fees, and this is before COVID, is around 8 to 9 thousand. And industry size as a whole rounds about to 1100 crores. Now let's come to the problem statement. Um, Typically, an IELTS aspirant is preparing for the exam for 2 to 4 weeks, and we have a lot of people who are landing on the platform of Leap uh, a bit early than their a bit before than they're actually going to take the exam from. And we need to essentially keep those aspirants on the platform. And how do we do that is going to be in my solution moving forward. So to understand the pain points, I analyzed the negative reviews on the Play Store. I uh, searched them out, identified keywords, and then perused through them to understand what are the major problems that the students are facing, the aspirants are facing. I interviewed around 5 individuals. Average age of the cohort was around 21.2, and male-female ratio was 3:2. I also did some secondary research. I went through the content that Leap has posted across platforms like YouTube, Instagram, and multiple uh, multiple influencers who post content around IELTS prep and the kind of queries that I receive on a regular basis. And these were some key pain points that I received, and these are with respect to the platform of Leap. So lack of serious rooms dedicated for practice, lack of rich content in the Discover tab, lack of P2P learning opportunities. Um, App gets monotonous after a while, and app performance is not up to the mark. The numbers that you see below are from the negative reviews, and essentially the sizes. What were the major problems that the that the users were facing? Here is a brief schematic of the journey that an aspirant goes through when they land on the Leap Scholar platform. So the entry point is masterclass, or it can be advertisement on Instagram or a YouTube video post, or they're going through a reel and they come across a post from Leap Scholar, and they enter into the platform. They have certain avenues where they can engage with the app. So Discover tab is where they can go again and again and see what are the kinds of posts that people are posting. And speaking rooms, they can go and talk to people, practice on their speaking skills. There are certain events that Leap Scholar regularly hosts, and scholarship, which is a one-off event that they can apply for and look for. And there are upskill avenues where they can give tests. They have plus and premium courses, fast track course, and free learning material that they can go through to upskill themselves. This is essentially an empathy map that a user would feel when he has stumbled upon IELTS and is looking for test prep options. So he says, where should I start? What source is best? How should I start? What should I do? Preparation is monotonous. I don't have the time. While he's thinking that, why is this so hard? Am I wasting too much time? It is all over the place. I find it boring. Are there better resources? While thinking this, he checks other courses. He follows influencers, finds mentors who have already given the exam. He compares different platforms. Obviously, procrastinates and asks friends what to do, and feels lost, overwhelmed, anxious, scared, and inadequate. Um, Now, coming to the user personas that we identified along uh, the way. So the first user persona is Veteran Webhuff. Veteran Webhuff is a final year engineering student who aims to pursue MS from US. He has attempted the IELTS exam before and is aware of the general format and approach for the exam, but wants to further improve his candidature for the university of his choice. He has understanding of the basic concepts of the exam and is usually looking for daily bite-sized content that he can engage with along with his day-to-day. Um, he continues to practice mock tests and wants to engage with similar candidates and learn from their experiences. Um, Next one is Sneha. She has just graduated and is looking for pursuing a career in Canada. She finds herself adept at business knowledge and wants to join an MBA course in one of the leading universities at Canada. She discovers that the university of her choice requires a strong IELTS score and now wants to know more about it. She has been good with English and believes she can crack the exam, and with a targeted learning module. She discovers Sleep Scholar through an Instagram post and now has landed on the app. She plans to give the exam in a few months, but wants to start building a good foundation for her preparation moving forward. And the final persona is Varun Lakshmi. She is an experienced professional looking for employment opportunities in the UK. She has the required experience uh, for a role according to her career trajectory, but discovers that most international recruiters require an IELTS score for international candidates. She was good with English, but now needs a refresher on basic concepts and has to clear the exam. Um, Moving forward, now I'll be coming to the solutions that I've come up with. So before I go into essentially describing what the solution was, when I was looking at IELTS as an exam, I realized that a lot of people have solved for uh, what to study for, right? So what do I have to study? There's a plethora of content online where which users can go through and upskill for them. And now most of the players, including Leap, are at the position of how to study for the exam. And through this solution, I want to essentially tackle the problem of how to make users study. So essentially, the job to be done is how do I make the user study for the exam, and Leap Games is something that I believe can solve for it. So Leap Games will have mini games like Scrabble, crossword, which essentially helps one build their vocabulary and English. It allows them to check their prowess and compete themselves with the battle of words. And I understand that including game can essentially cannibalize the attention from the major portions of the app. So we can essentially introduce one game per day, like Wordle does, or something similar. So the pros of this would be we'll be able to enable students to learn while having fun. They can compete with friends and allow them to develop a competitive edge. Games are known to boost engagement and would definitely significantly improve the D7 and D30 numbers. Although the some of the cons attached to this are that it requires additional development bandwidth. Although we can go for games as a service platform, which through which we will have to only essentially embed those services on the app, and we would need to build them from scratch. Um, Along with the games, we can introduce leap points, which the users would be able to win by playing these games, and these coins can be used for cross-selling opportunities, unlock exclusive workshops, speaking sessions, and exclusive coupons, etc., etc. The plan here is attached to the vision of Leap to to have that all you need stack for international students, and essentially whenever we develop further value propositions, this can be used as a cross-selling platform for that. Moving forward, this is an analysis framework that will be describing how I've thought of the games and how will this essentially work. So the meaning of all of this is improving preparation. How am I empowering those aspirants is by milestones. So essentially, a score on the game is your milestone. Social influence is you win badges, and the previous participants introduced badges in a much more descriptive way. Unpredictability is rewards. They can win coins. Avoidance is FOMO. So if they see that the friends are playing the games and they're not, there will be a FOMO present there. Scarcity is deadlines. So if I'm not playing the game of the day, I'm losing out on earning coins. Ownership is essentially coins, and achievement is I get up on the leaderboard with the higher score that I achieve through the game. The second solution is Leap Shots, which is essentially mini bite-sized content sourced from which can be sourced from already uploaded content by Leap, and can be also carefully curated through specialists. This will include word of the day, tips and tricks for exam, 100 days of speaking, writing challenges, um, and can be content creation later can be also extended to the users to develop content and post on the app. This will intuitively boost content distribution and consumption, and significantly boost engagement in discuss tab. So this will be discoverable through the discuss tab, as you can see.
Vaibhav, just a heads up, we're right on the dot, so this probably might be your last slide.
Yeah, yeah. After this, we have the thank you slide.
Yeah.
Uh, so that is how the users will be discovering the slides, and so there are also some additional solutions like discuss improvement. So not stacking the pinned posts above. So every time I'm checking the discuss tab, I have to scroll down through the pinned posts, adding topics and hashtags for posts, and which can be later used to segment those posts accordingly for the users. Constant moderation of content, because I found some irrelevant posts and Telegram links which can be removed from the platform. Um, and showing the comments on the posts, and not essentially hiding them, to inspire discussions on the posts. That is it from the solution side of things. I thank you for this opportunity. I'm now open for questions.
Awesome. Thanks, Vaibhav. Miss seeing the memes though on this one.
Uh,
But Radhika, Pranil, over to you. Would love to hear your thoughts on this one.
Cool. Vaibhav, again, what I liked about your presentation was that you made a couple of bets, and that's usually good, rather than focusing on tactical things. But again, similar to the last presentation, right? Games is it's very easy to say, games retains people, so let's have games. But why does that solve this particular user's pain point is something that I'd like to understand better. Similarly, like the three personas that you had, they were all quite similar to me. I mean, they were different in terms of where they are in their life, etc. But what were their pain points? Like, why did you bifurcate the personas that way? And how does games, for example, who is it solving for among the three, and why?
so talking about the first question, so if you have seen Doubtnut as a product, they have essentially solved for every engagement solution that is possible on their app. So they have everything from streaks, from games, from referral, and all of that, and gamification. And why I see this as a prospective solution for the problem is because a lot of the people are solving for how to study, like I mentioned, and what to study. But since the time frame is a lot before, then they have to actually prepare for the exam. They do have time at hand, and they need engagement avenues as well as build skills, so that which can be used eventually in their prep. So that was the thought process, that how can I engage them while also upskilling them through the process, which is why I chose the games that I chose for the presentation, which was Scrabble and word battle with words and all of that, just so that they're also building their vocabulary. And why games is because uh, currently, when I saw the present solutions and how the users were currently engaging through the app, it was mostly through speaking rooms. And Discuss tab also had some engagement opportunities, but uh, it wasn't very it wasn't very engaging. Why? Because when I checked the post, not a lot of people were commenting on other posts, and how do I prepare. So there were some queries that how do I prepare for the IELTS exam, and there were not a lot of people helping them out. And how do so the essential idea was to how do I make the users engage, and that is how the solution of games came to me. And that is generally the trend, that games are relatively more engaging because uh, people are playing, so there's some competitive edge, and the Octalysis framework essentially tells how they're engaging through the different avenues. So accountability, engagement, ownership, all of that.
So
That
I get it, right? So
solves.
Doubtnut is a K-12 app. It's they're
Right.
kids. They love playing games. IELTS, significantly older, much more motivated. It's like their career at stake. So again, if it's skill building, which is important, and I like that you thought about it, because that is what can engage a user over a longer period for an exam that's relatively easy. Why not quizzes? Why not something low effort? Why do you go with something social, and that requires, even if it's a different game every day, there's like a cognitive load of learning the game of the day. So I you picked a very complex solution, and would want like a better justification of why this over others.
So quizzes is a possible solution, but it has little P2P learning opportunities. When I'm introducing competitive games where essentially multiple players are playing at a time, that does introduce a component of competition. And uh, how how do I compare myself with the other individuals, and what is the general skill set, like what is the general how do I say this, proficiency, like that kind of is missing from quizzes. And we can also essentially gamify quizzes by telling them how other people scored against you and all of that. But these were the games that I found were relatively more engaging than quizzes, relatively more interesting than quizzes, while also solving the purpose of upskilling.
Got it.
Pranil, you just unmuted. Would you want to go?
Yeah. Was just revving up. Cool. Thanks, Weber, for that presentation. I'm very happy that it was super focused on engagement of people who have their exam slightly far in time. The one concern I had is, you know, there's multiple set of user personas who use the app, right? And if I put out the app, which has some games, which has rewards, how to use those rewards, and then there's the regular product, existing products of voice rooms and master classes and batches, crash courses. That is, uh, it's like too much on the user in one app, right? So just trying to figure out if you have any thoughts, above, on if you have to sort of make this more relevant to the user. The user really needs to know where to go to for him, right? So I think that's one of the pieces I would want to heavily invest on. Secondly, the entire rewards as a framework, along with games in general, I think it's a lot to do from a effort perspective, right? You're
Right.
talking to the depth of even how do I use those coins across the entire Leap ecosystem, right? I think it's too massive a project, really, to sort of pick up, right? And we may want to define some smaller experiments to sort of get ourselves convinced how to go step by step to that end goal, if we have to pick that as the end goal. Right. So any thoughts on that, Web? Of how would you want to sort of take this small take this into small pieces as things to do and experiments, um, incrementally in roadmap for the end goal that you have tried to highlight?
Definitely. So I proposed two solutions. One was a lot more aspirational, or like moonshot, and the other was achievable and more practical. Uh, and I agree with your point that introducing this as is would not be a very very good choice. So what we can do is essentially introduce this by phases. So essentially gamifying test prep. By gamifying test prep, I mean that I'm able to see how aspirants are scoring against me, and by gamifying the little components and slowly introducing this, but while also monitoring if it's actually performing the way that we want to, we can move through things and create a roadmap for this.
Got it.
Can I add a little light of a question, light point? Spadika, Pranil, what if like a game like Wordle, for example, now that's going pretty viral, and I know in ILDS you need to have some amount of English vocabulary that needs to keep improving. Do you think something like that makes sense? Just keeping it very, very open. Probably something light. I haven't researched the space at all, but just something that came. So I don't know. What your thought on that?
Sure, we'd love to have a feature that goes viral, which
Everyone would say.
like that.
No, but thinking about the games angle, right? So games
Mhm.
doesn't really have to be maybe
Yeah.
coins, etc. Definitely gamification. But what if these games can be on the learning side of things? It can be P2P, it can be different ways, and that can add to the leaderboard. Of course, like go deeper and see if this hits your engagement vertical. But do you think games or gamification from that angle makes sense? Or is it worth spending time on that angle?
I think skill building is what the core problem to be solved is.
Right.
I'm not 100% convinced games would be the best or the most
Best way
efficient
to do
way
it.
to do it. Yeah, but
Yeah. That's fair. That's fair. No, that was just to keep it a little light at the end, just something that came across. But yeah, we all want something that goes viral, and it's very, very difficult to plan something that goes viral, right? Wordle, for example, was a gift as a birthday gift someone, but for their partner. So that
yeah.
is very, 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 very difficult to plan. But yeah, no, great presentation, Pranil. Spadika, any other questions that you have for Viper, or we'll pull up our last participant?
No, no more questions from me. Thanks, Weber.
Thanks, Weber.
Awesome. Thanks,
Thank you.
Vaibhav.
Thank
All
you.
the best. And we already have Daniel raising his hand. Thanks, Daniel. We've handed over the mic to you. And I love how on this particular teardown, everyone's been so fast about everything. I think we are only taking it like usually there's some glitch. Some okay, Daniel, thanks so much.
Hey.
Um, you're probably
But
the last participant today for today,
yes,
so more pressure on you given that three people have gone ahead of you. But
yeah,
you look pretty fresh, you look pretty confident. So without further ado, if you could just test your slides, we will
yep.
get
I'll
you.
just share my screen. Before that, I hope I'm audible.
Yeah, audible.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, are you able to see my screen?
Yes, we can see it. Yes, perfect. We can see it.
Cool.
Uh,
I'll just keep a timer on my end as well. Just
Please. It is exactly 18:35 on my time. So you get 10 minutes from now. Feel free to spend 30 seconds initially just introducing yourself
sure.
and the next 10, 11 minutes yours.
Awesome. Cool. So, hi everyone. I'm Daniel. I currently am a software engineer at JP Morgan Chase. I've been working here for about 2 years. I recently came to realize that product is something I'm really passionate about. And the two ways about how I came to realize this. The one has to do with my past. I used to be heavily involved in parliamentary debating back in college, and just during that process, just thinking of multiple stakeholders and every possible problem for every debate was quite interesting and really fun for me. So that's something that I yearn to do. And secondly, just in my job as well, like working with a really nice product manager who took my inputs on product as well. And showed me the business side, like discuss KPIs, etc. with me, just made me, like this is something that I really want to get into and I find more interesting. So that's the reason I wanted to get into product. So yeah, this is a great platform for folks like myself who want to break in. So that's why I thought of, taking part in the product teardown. So yeah, I'm really happy to have been selected, and I am excited to present. So yeah, without any further ado, I'd like to get started. So I'll dive right into the problem. And so essentially, the problem is pretty clear. I think we've already heard from everyone here that what we have to do here is figure out a way to get the users who plan to give the exam in about 6 to 12 months come back to the app on a very regular basis, right? So this is the goal. The goal is pretty obvious. That's to increase user engagement. And there are two key things within this. So first of all, like based on my research, I figured out that there are already quite a few interesting features within the app. One is learn, the other one's discuss, and the third thing is speaking rooms. And based on the EMAs as well, figure out that speaking rooms is something that's already doing quite well, especially in terms of their adoption. And even today morning at 4 a.m., I was just going through the speaking rooms, and there were like quite a few rooms pretty active. So I think that's really doing quite well. So I decided to focus on things that are probably underused. For example, the learn feature is this has an adoption rate of 10%. So I thought of focusing on these two things. So there are two goals here. One is to aid the user's learning process via the learn feature till they decide to give the test, and two, it's to help users grow with the community and by driving the engagement on the discuss feature. So these are two key personas. So the way I conducted my research was I went through a lot of the user reviews on the Play Store. I also used the discuss and speaking rooms within the app itself to understand the type of users there. I was in a couple of speaking rooms just listening to people about why they use the app in the first place, what are their motivations, what are their aims and goals, and also going through threads in Reddit, etc., to just understand the space and the type of users they are. So keeping the goals in mind, I came up with two personas. One is Simon. So Simon, the student who plans to study in Canada, wants to improve proficiency in English and get a good score in the IELTS. What's unique about Simon is that although speaking groups are a great way to learn and improve your confidence in English, he prefers non-verbal means of learning. And another goal is to make sure that, like, since they're giving the exam probably 6 months down the line, they want to create some sort of consistency and learn on a daily basis. The other person is Fatima. So Fatima is a working professional who also has similar goals. What's unique about Fatima is that she likes to learn with a group of people. She likes to be part of communities, and she still wants to explore more about this preparation journey towards finally giving the exam at the end of the day, right? Like, she wants to understand about others' experiences. She wants to be able to ask doubts, etc. And that is her aim with regards to using the application during this time before she finally decides to take up the crash course and then finally give the test. So these are two key personas, and let's dive right into the first feature, right? So learn. I think learn's a wonderful feature for folks like Simon who want to move towards non-verbal means of learning and have some sort of consistency. I myself have used learn. I did a lesson, and it was really cool. Like the sort of content that is there and the chapters that you have, it's really great in order to get like a refresher on grammar and to just brush up your skills, right? So I think it's really cool. Although there are certain pain points for users like Simon, right? Number one, users can't set smaller goals. Like, the aim of this feature itself is to make sure that you reinforce good behavior, right? Because you already see things like setting a daily goal, etc., that are already there in the app. So I think the intention here is to make sure that you help users build good habits. The good habit being learning on a daily basis. Except now the problem here is that you start off with a big commitment. If you go to your daily goals, you can only do a 1 hour, 2 hour, or 3 hour thing. There's nothing smaller than that. Initially, people might stick, but over time, due to other commitments in their life, for example, students like Simon have exams to look at assignments, etc. So it's quite difficult to spend an hour at a minimum to achieve your daily goal on this app, which finally eventually demotivates such users and leading to their drop off. Secondly, you don't have any incentives to achieve your streak, right? That means even if you're showing consistently good behavior, there's nothing to look forward to, or no reward that you're getting, which I think is another problem which leads to a drop off. And lastly, there's not a lot of engaging content within the learn feature, which I think is something that we'd like to look at. So first, in terms of solutions, adding custom goals is something I thought of, which is really important, because when you think of gamifying, like, I think the intention here is also to gamify this because you have your daily goals, etc. So one of the core tenets of gamification is to ensure that users own that game, right? Like, they feel that this is their journey, and I think giving them the agency to decide what goal is right for them is something that's really, really useful, because now they can break things down into what they're comfortable with. So for example, you can choose to either break it down into maybe a fraction of a lesson per day, or if you want to make it even more granular, you can just choose the number of chapters you want, so you know exactly what to expect. So given this, users now know that, like, by virtue of them having smaller goals to set for themselves, it's just easier for them to achieve those things. And given that it's easy to achieve those things on a daily basis, like, they always get that dopamine hit, and they keep getting motivated to come back to the platform. The other problem with having higher goals is, initially when you achieve these things, it's cool, but once you start dropping off and you get demotivated, you start dreading using the app. It's like such a huge task for you to spend an hour to study. So now it's just easier when you know that, okay, it's just another 2 chapters to hit my daily goal. So I think that is something that can really help users like this. The second thing is to give badges and rewards based on completion consistency. So the way I want to go about this is, number one, creating levels to achieve this. And I think it's really cool. Like, if you just even look at Google Pay, right? Like, in order to achieve your rewards, you have these set of levels that are really nice. So just making this a game where, each day is a level. Achieved or not to get a badge is something that's nice, because now it gives users a sense of achievement, right? So there are two ways in which we can go about this. Number one is giving badges, and badges is based on your daily streak, right? So as you can see over here, you have like 2 days to go till your next badge. So we are rewarding their consistency, and secondly, we also reward their completion. That is, as they go deeper into the learning phase, completing X amount of chapters, you get certain rewards, like a free mock test or a free one-on-one session, which again helps them, right? Another nice thing to do is, like, would be to allow them to share their badges that they've received, so that they can just share it with their friends and family, because that is something that means a lot to them, since they've put in all this effort and they're being rewarded for it. Another cool thing that can help the app is that when these users share it on social media, they get to like, others who probably don't know about the application and want to apply for IELTS also get to know about it, so you can probably onboard a couple more users. Then we have Leap Bytes, which is another interesting proposition for individuals who don't really prefer reading so much in order to learn, or for those individuals who already are pretty sorted with regards to things like the basics of grammar, etc., which the learning tab wants to help users with. So just having quick 60 seconds content, like just like last minute tips, or like just smaller grammar tips, like how to use the Oxford comma, or a word of the day, etc., something that's really useful for those folks. And it also helps people who are even using the learn tab, right? Like for some people who might get bored of reading or just doing these chapters, just having like maybe a day where you just go through a couple of these leap bites might also be good. Or just while you're going through a chapter, if you find if you're kind of bored after a chapter, you might just watch a few videos and then get back to the other things. It just helps you mix things up a bit, which I think is also quite useful for such users to make sure that they find this experience of learning fun. Cool. So the next thing is discuss. So for the discuss feature, we'll focus on users like Fatima, who probably are like decently well versed with English, but they still want to explore more about this journey of the IELTS exam. They still don't know a lot about the IELTS exam. They want to know tips. They have different doubts, etc. And I think this is a really great feature. But there are a couple of pain points here as well, right? Number one, if you just go through the feature now, there's endless amounts of content, so there's no way to filter anything out, and this can lead to one, information overload, and secondly, it also causes a big problem because now users don't know what sort of content to expect. Like the discuss feature, after like 15-20 minutes of scrolling, I realize is really cool, but if you like, generally users just spend 2 or 3 minutes to understand what a feature is all about. So based on this, like at least through my first experience, I only saw community based posts. So that means users like me would just create false assumptions on the type of content or the range of content available, which is quite problematic. Because for instance, they might just think, oh, it's only community posts, but there are posts like word of the days or doubts, etc., that might actually be useful to them, but they don't know about this. And then of course the last thing is they're unable to find what they want. So for users who already know exactly what they want, there's no option to search. So the solution to this is quite a simple thing. One is to add filters and labels, and then is to add a search bar, right? So through adding labels, I think it's very now like it solves a couple of things. Number one, users know exactly what to expect in the application. So here you can easily see that okay, there are community posts, there are posts regarding tests, there are posts regarding doubts, the word of the days. So these are types of posts that are available here. So now it reduces the possibility or the probability of users creating false assumptions of what is there to explore within this tab. Then the second thing is to add a search bar. So for users probably Fatima wants to find communities of working professionals or people who are alumni of her college. So just searching for those keywords through the search bar can easily filter out those posts for her, which I think is something that's also really cool. And this, like, even for users who just want to see only word of the day types of posts, they can also just go ahead and search for that. Then I think the next thing is like a couple of nice to haves within the content that is available in Discuss tab itself. Is number one, hosting live quizzes. I think obviously it's very difficult to create your own live quiz. It's so much like a development that goes into that. So I think leveraging things like Kahoot, so just posting like the Leap admins posting like we will have a Kahoot quiz at this time is something that's really cool. Because again, like users get, again you it's sort of community building because it's a live quiz where users get to meet with one another and then compete against each other for a small fun quiz, which I think is really good to improve engagement and help users look forward to something. And I think another thing is AMAs with experts. This is really prevalent on Reddit, where a lot of experts in IELTS, etc., host AMAs, and they see a lot of engagement. This is something that can be done on the Discuss tab as well in order to improve engagement here. So the next thing is prioritization and strategy. So based the thing I used is or the framework I used is impact, adoption, and effort. And based on this, we decided that I decided that discussion labels or the search option is the one that is should be most prioritized, because the impact is quite high, because now it really helps users to filter out content, understand what the sort of things that are there, and to find communities, etc., which is really useful to them. And the adoption is also very high because the feature that I suggested are things that are generally there on multiple applications. So users already expect these sort of features with an application, so the adoption would be quite high. And the effort to do this is quite simple, because just building a filter and labels for different posts might be, it seems like a simple task, which is why I went with that. And then lastly, the success metrics and KPIs here. So in order to judge the success of the application of the features, two things that are similar across Learn and Discuss, that is the adoption rate and the time spent on this. You can even go like on a micro level just to see the time spent per user and see if that increases on a month-on-month basis. And then you can also like for Learn, you can track the streaks missed. So seeing that there's a reduction in the daily streaks missed is something that can indicate success. And for the a Discuss tab, tracking the number of monthly searches that are used, or the click through rate on the labels, and seeing a month on month increase for that is also something that can be that will indicate success. And lastly, overall, just seeing a increase in your monthly revenue, because by virtue of users being like engaging more with the application, also somehow motivates them to finally take the crash course, which improves your revenue, or probably explore other courses as well, which will improve your revenue. And just seeing an increase in your daily and monthly active users is something I think would indicate success. And yeah, that brings me to the end of my presentation, and I'm just happy to take your questions.
Thanks, Daniel. I think again, right on time and pretty concise. Thanks for that. Eh? Sparika, Pranal, over to you. Any questions that you might have?
Well, I'll go first as usual. So, Daniel, really nice, good looking presentation. It was a pleasure to kind of see that. I really liked the sharp definition of the user personas, and I think throughout the presentation, you tied in the pain points quite well to the product solutions. When it came to the learn feature, it was very clear non-verbal learner, they need something where they can read and learn. With Discuss, though, it was not clear to me. I feel like the solutions you suggested were kind of hygiene, right? Like having a search, having filters. How will this be? How will this lead to more retention on the app for people, right? If you're not seriously preparing for the IELTS, do you have the conviction that they'll come back just for this discussion forum?
Yeah, because if you look at users like Fatima, right, they probably aren't going to use the learn feature for a long time because they're already like decently good at English. They'll probably prepare the end. What they're more interested in is figuring out like people's experiences per se, like understanding, oh, like how, what did you do in this? How tough was the exam? Or just maybe asking certain doubts. All
Why
these
not
things
speak is that?
require.
Why discuss? Why the
Yeah,
discussion?
yeah. So probably users like again on Speak, most of the Speak rooms were regarding just learning, like preparing yourself for speaking or the speaking a bit of the exam itself. Not a lot of rooms just to discuss doubts and all of that. And secondly, just a lot of users, like the reason we still have Facebook or any Reddit or any community, a lot of users still prefer text-based communication and comments and threads like that. Which is why I think it's quite important. And also like just like within the IELTS space, right, when I was going through Reddit and stuff like that, like a lot of people have so many doubts about others experiences, because I think this learning about how others went through things just gives you a bit of confidence or helps you prepare your journey. And I think a lot of users, especially those who just come into the app, try out your demo class and are thinking of giving it a long time, like maybe 6 or 12 months down the line, have all of these questions in their mind about how they want to prepare. So I think having a community is something that's really important for your base, which is why I think just making it easier to use a discuss. You've already built the discuss feature, but I think a lot of people don't use it because it's very difficult to navigate through it, and they don't really know what to expect out of that feature. So having these simple, additions or tweaks will really help them use it to its full potential.
Got it. Do you think they'll come back for 8 months though to discuss doubts and so
Yeah,
on?
see, it might not be like if you compare it to the like the journey of someone who wants to use the learn feature. I don't think you'll get a daily thing, but this is in terms of an overall engagement, it will
Mm.
be clearly more, because of course this is going to be like, this is an app where you have people who have success stories, you have people who are like completely focused on using prepping for IELTS. So it's going to be that one-stop destination for them to go and ask all their doubts, etc. So if that discuss feature is built in a way that makes it very easy for them to experience it, I think it's going to be quite useful. And if they do have any questions in their mind regarding IELTS, they'll always come to this and use it.
So it's more like stay on top of mind until they're ready to really invest
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
in IELTS prep. Cool. Okay, that's it from my side.
Hey, thanks, Daniel, for that crisp presentation. Yeah. Uh, a couple of broad comments I have, Daniel, is the kind of solutions you have put forward are great for feature optimizations, right? So, for example, hey, I want to optimize the usage of Learn. Hey, I want to optimize the usage of Discuss Forum. Right? I think this is bang on to ensure that these features are actually serving the purpose the way they were meant for, right? And that's obviously something that we should have done by default, as Pratik also mentioned. I am slightly worried that in the overall scheme of things, if my master north star is to engage users of this specific persona, I would still be more keen to look at, hey, are these feature optimizations the best areas to invest in? So just looking at this slightly more holistically, I would need more convincing that these are the best two things. These are definitely the best two things if I talk about optimizing these two features.
Okay.
But are these the best two things to do from an overall context perspective? Is something that I want to gain more confidence on.
Yeah, so I'll start off with the learn, right? I think if you just look at the journey of a user or the motivations of a user who wants to give the IELTS exam itself, there are a couple of things that they want to do. One is to improve their confidence. If you just even go through Google user reviews, a lot of them say that they use this app and it helped them build confidence in English. A lot of the users don't think in English, they generally think in their mother tongue. So that is something that they really want to focus on. And I think one of the great things that helps is the learn feature, right? That is on a daily basis, being consistent and focusing on learning English on a daily basis. That really helps them to start improving their confidence as well. So I think that is something that's really useful, right? I think you should push in terms of investing in, because those are the users, those are the motivation of the users to improve in English, and then be confident enough to finally get that their dream band and via your crash course. I think the second type of user again are those people who are still confused about this process, who don't know how to prepare. And I think the way to do that is through community engagement, and you see this happening across various spheres as well, right? Like a lot of new community based like applications coming up. Discord is also doing really well. So many communities there. It's because of the very idea that people like to engage with one another to learn about their experiences, so that they can finally prepare themselves for a journey. And especially as students, it always gives us more confidence when we confide in one another. So given that these are the primary motivations of users, I still feel like these are the two things that you should continue to invest in.
Got it. Okay. Cool.
Thank you.
Thanks, Neil.
Daniel, how confident are you? You've seen three decks. You presented yours. What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, everyone did really like splendid stuff. So honestly,
This is our version of Shark Tank, bro. Can't be so humble on this. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Great presentation.
thank
All the
you.
best.
Thanks.
We'll give both our judges 5 minutes to quickly, you guys can discuss among yourself. You can just put this on mute. If you want, you can switch off your videos, or else we can see you animatedly discussing. Maybe you can get on a quick WhatsApp call. Very, very light, 4 decks. We will wait for you. Meanwhile, we have a couple of announcements for our participants who are here today. And folks, there are just wait for it. It might take about 5 minutes. We'll give them 5 minutes to quickly discuss, and we'll wait for them. Meanwhile, folks, we also have like a audience winner poll that we will be putting out here. We'll quickly be taking that poll live. For the decks that you think were the best, there is an audience choice winner as well. If it collides with the main one, well and good. I think that would be the best. But if not, I think there are often times when there are some that many times that it's often like the same one that our judges usually choose. But if not, and from the Leap Scholar team, I think they've been really kind to give out some prizes, some goodies, as well as interview calls for the finalists. I think I'm not sure if it's for the top 1 or 2, but for the winners there will be interview opportunities. So like we shared earlier, I think the whole idea of doing this entire Teardown series was to create a platform where it's not just top B school folks getting opportunities to top startups, but it is also folks who can really come out here, apply your product thinking, apply all the skills that you've been learning in Insocho, other places, other books, other places, and being applying them and really putting the product sense to use. Right? So we've just tried to gamify it and try to make it like a B school competition. That's the idea, that throughout the month there is some amount of learning that goes into this. But regardless of making it, I think there are so many of you all who took part in it. And I know with I get a lot of DMs saying that, hey, even though we didn't make it through to the top 3, we still enjoyed doing this, and they are getting better with each and every presentation, right? You'll probably be using most of the learnings here while you apply for interviews outside as well, right? You might be applying for companies outside, and most companies today have a case study round, right? So this is probably one of the best ways to practice that. So do take part in the next one as well. Tanya will probably shoot out an email. We are confirming our next month's participation. So all the best for that. Keep practicing. We also have our recordings from cohort 1 of Insurjo as well as cohort 1 of the product analytics series. So in case you missed that out, do check it out. We have the academy page coming up. Tanya will probably share that link with you all as well. If you missed those, we had some of the best people come and take lessons on growth 101. So Insurjo, for everyone who missed it, was our flagship 101 series wherein we did cover a lot. Let me share a link to that. Most of you all, I'm hoping, have already come across this, but
Till then, I have a like everyone was listening about IELTS, IELTS, IELTS. So I thought let's just like if people even know its full form. So we'll go through that poll once and then we'll go for the participants one. Okay, so I'll publish that now.
Yep, go for it. You're sharing your screen?
Yep.
Yep. What is the full form of IELTS? Go for it, folks. No Googling. You can just click on the
I
poll,
just
yeah.
hit it because I think everyone is just looking at the most voted answer and going for that now. I'm sure not everyone knows the full form.
Yeah. Is anyone here taking the IELTS exam? Is anyone here preparing for your masters?
I think Weber was, right?
Weber, were you participating? Like, I think he was, but I'm not 100% sure too.
It felt like he put it himself as a user persona, so I was hoping that he's actually.
Yeah, it's possible. It's possible.
We'll take 1 minute to just go for the audience poll thing for the winners and then we'll get the winners announced.
Yeah, Pranal and Spadika, y'all are not allowed to see the results. I'm not sure if it's visible to the others, by the way. Yeah, hide this, hide this. Let them not get excited by it. But folks,
No,
please
that's
do
okay.
go down to
We
the
made
post.
up our mind, and I'm very sure.
Okay, yeah, they've already made up their mind, and I think they've also shared it with us on the WhatsApp group. But we do see a lot of results coming in. Folks, if you all can just go, we see about 25% votes already in. So if you all can just go down to the polls tab, take another 10 seconds. Who do you think will win? And yeah, we're getting a lot of votes in there. So Tanya, if you're ready, I think we are good to hand over the stage back to Pranil and Spadika. We can go downward. So first we can announce who came third, second, first. That's it. That way we can go. And Spadika, Pranil, in case you want to announce some winners, what do the winners get, etc. Also feel free to. I just did announce to them that there are interview opportunities and some goodies coming their way. But you all can also cover that in the announcement. So over to you. Spadika, Pranil, who wants to go for
Yeah.
the?
I'll just go. Just give me a second.
Spadika
Uh,
is going for it.
cool. So the third prize goes to Pearl.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Paul. Really liked your confidence and your energy. And although a lot of your features are focused more on activation and retention, I think you were able to kind of defend it well, saying that, given the motivation level of this user, why activation is important. So we like that. Good job. The second place goes to Nishit and Ashish. We liked your user journey and the golden flow that Arnav talked about. We like that how you had that and how you tied your recommendations back to that flow. And your product recommendations on leaderboards were quite spot on. And the winner is
Any guesses?
okay. Sorry, I announced
Okay,
it.
okay.
It's Daniel.
Yeah.
Uh, Good job, Daniel. Your depth of user research was really good. Really appreciate the length to which you went to understand the different kinds of users we have. And we think your solutions also tied in really well with the specific pain points of IELTS aspirants. We were also impressed with the way you defended, your choice of focusing on just two features. And so, yeah, congratulations. So
Awesome.
the
Daniel's
total
on stage.
Congrats, Daniel.
Thank
Congrats.
you.
Just to
Thank you
give
so
an
much.
Oscar style reception speech.
I just want to say thank you. I mean, this is a great opportunity, especially for someone like me who is just learning still about product and is interested to get into this space. It is great, and like honestly, love your feedback as well. It was nice hearing about like the pain, like where I fell short. Even I realized that I didn't have any like moonshot type of ideas. It was just more related to optimization. So I think I'll keep that in mind the next time I apply for this. Yeah, thank you once again. It was really great meeting.
Congrats. Congrats, Daniel. And just before you go stage, Daniel, what are the things you are doing? I'm sure you're currently also probably looking to break into product. So first of all, congratulations, great deck. You were also our audience winner in that poll. So
Yeah,
congratulations.
thanks.
There is a tie in that. Quick question to you for lots of folks who are also preparing. What are the other things that you've been doing so far? One, number one, to break into product, and second, specifically for this case study round that we'll have to call. What do you
Right.
uh, yes.
On the first thing, in terms of like how I'm deciding to break into product, is just reading. Like I've bought a couple of books, learning that, and just connecting with a lot of people within this space. Trying to set up some time with them to just understand the role, understand how they prepared for the role. I think those are things that you surely can do. And there are a lot of people who are very nice, who accept your request and who are willing to spend some time with it. Also, just looking within your college itself, right? Like a lot of times you'll be surprised to see how many alumni are actually into product. So I think reaching out to my seniors was also quite helpful. And another thing is, luckily, like even within the debating space, I'm quite connected to a lot of people in that circuit. So quite a few people are product managers. So I just connected with them as well to just learn how they prepared and everything. So yeah, that's how I prepared, and I'm trying to do this as well, like product teardowns, to just build my confidence as well. And YouTube channels like Exponent are really good. The product folks, awesome interviews. So yeah, like I mean, even in product folks, you have like this entire breaking of product management series where you get to learn a lot of insights of other folks. So it's really helpful. And yeah, got to learn about a lot of resources through that. Yeah, and the second thing is with regards to how I approach this. To be very honest, I prepared this in like a few hours because I was busy throughout the last week of the year. But what I did do though was like for a few days, even though I could not spend a lot of time on the presentation, I was just using the app. I was just reading through user reviews when I was bored, or like I had time in the night before sleeping, just understanding that and making notes. Like I use Google Keeps. So I just make notes of like my understanding of the users, what their motivations are. I just kept writing all of that down. So then and like what I think can be improved based on my experience in the app. Like even like this morning, I was just on the speaking room at like 4 a.m. just listening to random conversations, trying to understand their motivations. So just making note of that really helped. And then yeah, at the end when I finally decided to prepare the deck, I think just gathering all my notes and then breaking them down into smaller bits and pieces really helped. Also, of course, the previous participants were really helpful in terms of gaining inspiration from their decks as well. So yeah, that's how I prepared.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Daniel, and all the best. I know
Thank you.
there's lots more coming up in store for you. So there's probably just a starting point. All the best to keep us posted how that goes.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thanks. So that was one side of the story, right? We got to hear about how our finalists have prepared, but we also have with us Padika and Pranal, and folks will just take maybe only, I know it's been a long evening, but maybe just 5-10 minutes more, where I'd love to cover a couple of points. Starting off with Padika. Padika, you come from a management consulting background with, working with one of the best firms out there, McKinsey, before breaking into product. And even though you've broken into product maybe just a couple of years back, you probably like leading a vertical, one of the most important verticals within a very fast growing startup, right? And you've probably just broken all odds there as well. Like you're probably leading that entire vertical both on business and product, right? It's not a very traditional journey. um, would love to hear some critical feedback as well, right? You saw a couple of decks here; these are probably better than the rest. But given that you come from, the good part about coming from the MBB background is the structured thinking that comes to product, right? The entire first principles approach that comes naturally. You've been doing that for 2 years. So, firstly, would love to cover some points there, right? What are your some feedback that you saw? Maybe these were great decks, so you can also share that. Hey, this is what I liked about it, or what would you do differently? Number one, would love to cover that bucket. And second, what we'd love to cover is in this short period of time, right? Uh, how has your journey been so far? One is definitely breaking in. you can share, your experience, or at least what you learned from it. Right now, probably you're way past that phase, but at least you can share with them on what are the challenges you face, what are some better ways to do you didn't do it traditionally, right? So that would be one part of it. And I know I'm just throwing 2 3 questions at you, but you can then just take 5 minutes to cover.
Yeah.
And second is, like in that same question, is okay. Now that you've broken, you've grown also really well in a short period of time, right? Going on to lead a vertical in a short period of time. That's probably a function of also how the company has grown. But I'm sure there'll be tremendous amount of learning that you got on the job, right? So if you can just break it into 2 parts, one is definitely on the case study, what are things to improve, how to prepare something there, and second on breaking into product and how to grow really well in that short. So next 5 minutes, would love to hear your journey and on these two specific buckets.
Sure, sure. So on the decks, I really appreciated the effort that people put in into making it. Having seen this app from day zero, right? It's very close to my heart. So it felt good to see other people taking such a critical look at it, trying to understand our users, and really spend time in coming up with how we can improve it. I think what stood out about the decks that we chose were, one, they didn't focus on very tactical improvements. So the bets were slightly larger, or the way they thought about the problem was a little more holistic. So some of the decks were kind of very much into like the font or the placement of this or the scroll, or things like that, which is, it is good, it's hygiene, and all PM should be thinking about these things. But given the problem statement, we need to really focus on what is really going to move the needle, because as a PM, that is a trade-off you're always making, because there will be a laundry list of 100 things that are great to have, and you would even think that all of them needs to have happened yesterday, right? But you have a metric to move, and you need to ruthlessly prioritize, like, this is what is actually going to get me my result. And so the decks that we chose were the ones that relatively had that vision more in mind. And the second was around the retention focus. So a lot of people kind of took it as an opportunity to just generally suggest things on how the app can be improved. So that was another filter, that did you understand the problem statement that we have, and were your solutions in line with that? And the third, I would say, is how well you understood the persona. This is actually very important, because this is not an app that everyone uses. So if it's like previous teardowns might have been Dunzo, etc., which everyone can empathize with, because it's a need that everyone has. So those who really understood the persona, this was probably one of the highest weightages actually. Those who understood the different kinds of users we have, how do they differ from each other, and what their specific needs are. So the decks which went into that were the ones we picked. So yeah, that was.
Yeah, no, thanks for sharing that. Any resources to get better at making these more concise? I know it's probably something that comes naturally to you after having made so many of them, but for people who are starting, because there are lots of them who are entering their career, so these are 2 points that you suggested, but any way they can get better at it?
Uh, when I was starting out, or when I was researching on what it takes to be a PM, I found the product school YouTube channel to be amazing. Just going through that playlist gets you from zero to like five, right? I think that's a great resource. If you want more tactical suggestions, growth.design is a great website where they do teardowns of cool products, and they tell you where is the delight, where is the pain, where's the frustration. So that's also really nice, because it gives you some nice, like, a new way to look at the products that you use often. I'm not very big on like theoretical learning about product management that much. I think you just have to go out there and do it. So yeah, I mean, treating this as a segue, right, to my journey into product, and I know there's a lot of folks here who are looking to break into it. So I would say I know it seems like a chicken and egg thing, where people look for product experience, but then how do you get that if you're looking to break into it? So I think there's two ways you can do it. Pick one and go in deep, or do both. One is to have a proof of work, which is have a side project, which is what Arnav also mentioned. And these days, with so many no code tools out there, it's really easy to kind of do that. So some things I did, one, when I was in between jobs, I was just trying to build like a mentorship community. Like a lot of lawyers are looking to break out of the law and do things. Like I was one of them, right? So I was trying to build like a mentorship community for it. So I built a landing page and I like integrated Typeform, just small things. But just in that process and trying to get the first set of users for it, I learned a lot about like the 0 to 1, what it takes to kind of validate a hypothesis. I did the user research. So I didn't really publish it anywhere, but it taught me a lot about what it takes to be a product manager. Another thing, this was just a very small thing that I did on Twitter. It was in fact what caught Arnav's attention and what one of the things that led me to actually joining Leap was I built this little tool. So there's this person on Twitter called Krish Ashok who tweets a lot about food. So
I
he had
remember this.
so he had
Yeah.
just made like some kind of guidelines on the different ways you can make chutney. It's very random. But I had some free time, so I just built this tool on Excel where you can like answer a few questions and it'll generate a chutney recipe for you based on his tools. My cook is making chutney right now. So yeah, so just small things like this. Build something small, put it out there. It shows that you have initiative, you have creativity. You can uh, you have the building blocks of what it takes to be a PM, right? The second thing, which I think is not spoken about often enough, is taking up product adjacent roles. Like, what does a product manager do, right? You build stuff, you move metrics, you get alignment, you solve problems. Now these are not things that you can only do as a product manager. In startups there are so many other roles like program management, there are growth roles, or just generalist roles, right? Especially if you're early in your career, these are roles that get you very close to product. You'll either be working closely with the product manager in running experiments or even designing your own kind of experiments which will later be built into a product, right? Or you might eventually be even given a feature to launch on your own because the product manager is too busy and they'll say you build it yourself. So if breaking into product itself is difficult, then you should definitely aim to get into these product adjacent roles, which are very much in demand in especially in early stage startups. People just need people who are smart, passionate about product and technology and serving user pain points. And so I think that's a very good way to get into product. So even in Leap we've had a few junior sort of growth folks, program folks who have gone on to become APMs in other companies or within Leap itself. So yeah, so that's something I would like to suggest. Yeah.
How's your journey? How's your journey been now that you've probably started hiring folks as well on your team, or otherwise? What are some of those things that you are looking at differently since the time you broke? Right, I'm sure things would have changed, and you're probably trying to apply some of these things that you found challenging. Right? So what are you doing differently, and what are some things people should take care of?
Ah, good question. I mean, obviously, it's been a very crazy journey starting off doing proper product about a year and a half ago. I think sometimes you kind of end up in the right place at the right time. So then the product takes off, and then your role also kind of takes off along with it. And as it grows, as the product becomes more complex, you have to sort of bring more people on the team to do it. So I think what changes is in the beginning you're more execution focused, so you're kind of detailing out the feature that someone else decides, and then you work with the developer, or you work with the designers and you work with the developers and actually uh, bringing that into life. And then you might work on its impact analysis and then sort of presenting, hey, this is what worked, this is what didn't work. But then as you grow, it becomes more about storytelling and setting the vision for the company or for the product itself. So you're more looking at how the different features work together. What does the overall metrics for the app look like, and not just for your feature? And what should the vision be? How does it tie into the larger business, and so on? So it happens naturally, and I think you kind of pick up these skills on the job. I don't have much else to add on that.
Awesome, awesome. I'm hoping some of you folks might be able to, take up some of these learnings and, like Sparika shared, I think side projects or just launching something or building something really tiny might be a great way to, start getting into that mode, and that probably differentiates you from a lot many applications that just come in, right? So that might be an interesting way to break in. Pranil, in case you're on, maybe one question that we'd love for you also to take. We got it on the chat. Hey, we got on the chat section. There's one question saying that there's someone who spent more than a decade in other verticals, maybe tech, right? Not specified right now, but they have an interest of getting into the product side or the product role. Mukul, would be great if you can share a little bit about the current role also, because that way the answer will be a little more specific. But for the general question, if someone spent half a decade already in other adjacent roles, wants to break into product, definitely not easy. But do you have some points for them?
Yeah, I think the framework still largely remains the same, right? You will have to be so let's just talk what product is all about, right? It is all about being customer focused, and then across the entire life cycle of whatever you do, ensure that that customer focus stays in general, because the biggest of problem is you tend to lose that customer focus as you navigate through the real world complexities in terms of information overload, too many stakeholders, business goals, KPIs, working with devs, crunches here and there, but you end up losing that, right? So that's basically what it is, right? Being customer focused and staying customer focused till the end of it, right? And I think that's the skill set. That is something that you need to sort of cultivate in general, consistently across whatever role you have been, right? This role could be program, this role could be dev. So if you're a dev, you've been a engineering manager or a developer, hey, you can still keep a constant eye on what am I solving for the user, why this will impact the user, why this is important, right? And if you've been a keen observer of that in all your roles, or have been observing that now, I think that makes you like an apt candidate for product by default, because that's the only expectation practically I would have as a hiring manager in product.
Right. And Pranil, have you come across situations where senior folks are applying to you laterally and you've been able to hire them? Do you see that as a challenge generally beyond a certain? I mean, very candidly, right?
Yeah,
Someone with X number of years of experience.
it is a challenge sometimes, just because things like comp and everything changes a lot if you are in a different life cycle, and then PM is especially one role where you would want people with experience coming in, right? So that sort of creates a problem, but I don't think so it's a big blocker in general, uh, right? If you get the right skill sets built in general, I think it's very easy to cross this hurdle.
Fair, fair. And yeah, no, that makes sense. I think he just responded saying that he's on the SDM side, right? Service management. So once, I mean,
I
I've
think
seen,
at
yeah, I've seen.
most, sorry, just to add, at most senior levels, if you want to break in, then an internal transfer might be your best bet, right? Because they've seen your proof of work, they've seen your customer focus, and so on. And yeah, so that's what I'd say.
True. Yeah, I think tactically internal is the easiest in case you're already working on in a product company. I kind of have seen a lot of people struggle beyond a certain number of years, right? It is not that easy. Think of it as a pyramid, right? Once you are 10 years, whether it is SDM, whether it is core developer, whether it's engineer manager, probably seems easy theoretically, saying that okay, here, get this skill, get that skill, but practically on the hiring side, that's what I wanted to get from you guys also. Like, in your experience on the hiring side, you would probably be seeing tons of resumes every other day as well, right? So are you generally open to it? I mean, very candidly, many of them aren't, right? If it's a PM position, they don't generally see beyond it. But like, if you have any tactical tips that hey, do this, do that, that is probably something that I think Mukul is looking for, because I see another question on top of that he's asking. So it is not easy. That is something I agree with. But at the same time, I think there are maybe. Do you think like maybe building side projects at that stage helps, or I'm not sure. Even I'm not 100% sure what helps you.
So I think at an APM level, definitely side projects, having been in a
Yeah.
product adjacent role where you can talk about a feature you've contributed to, those are things that really matter. Founding experience matters. At a
Right.
PM level, founding experience is great. We love founders.
True.
So that really helps. Maybe at a PM level, what may also help is if you're okay with joining as a consultant or an intern of sorts, right, where you can take on a project and prove that you have what it takes. So that could also be something that no one would really be close to exploring.
Yeah, these are two good ways. Like if you are okay to, you probably come in with 10 years experience in certain spaces, right? You would have worked on a particular domain. Try finding maybe early stage startups that are doing that and just say, hey, I'd love to contribute and do that on the side, right? Don't call it an. It can be a consulting gig. It can just be like, hey, 3 months I'll help you out after my role. There are obviously different things that way that might help. One last question that we'll take here, and it's probably for someone who's already broken. So there is Gopi, who's a technical product manager today. Um, how do you set those 60, 90, 120-day plans? And especially when, maybe it's a Series B, Series C company, there's some structure coming in, right? You have probably a manager, group product manager, you have a VP product there. That's probably the transition. How do you ensure that you get enough visibility and you're growing in that career?
To be very honest, we are a very small product org, so I
Yeah.
won't have a good answer for this. Pranil unfortunately dropped off. He may have experience from other teams, but for
Yeah.
us, day one is like day 30. You have to kind of onboard
Get
very
started from the
quickly
go.
and get started. That's how it is in startups where there's not a lot of structure. We still don't have like a hierarchy of things.
Okay.
Right from APM, you come in and you start owning a metric or a funnel, and then you have to start working on it.
Very nice. So that gives you all another insight, right, folks? So product roles at early stage startups or fast growing startups is very different from product roles at much larger organizations where things are more structured. So generally a 16, 90, 120-day structured plan comes in when you're probably owning a small feature or a smaller thing within a larger team. But like Spadika shared, in early stage roles or fast growing roles, 30, 60, 90 days change so fast, and oftentimes you're switching context, right? At one point of time, you're probably working on something. Within 30 days, you realize, hey, maybe something else is contributing, and that focus shifts, maybe as an organization, as a product team. But is there any structure? How do you bring structure to this madness? Even at the early stage, I know I'm probably like grown very, very fast over the last, say, 365 days, right? How do you try building processes
Hmm.
around this? How do you try scaling up and still keeping yourself sane?
Yeah. No, in terms of structure to a product team, we do it in terms of metrics. So everything comes down to certain metrics, and some PMs own some metrics. So that's
Sure.
kind of how we divide it. And as we scale, if we start seeing that a certain feature now really needs to take off and we need more hands there, then we kind of hire for that, and that's how
Got
we
it.
go with it.
Got it. So, very simply put, say you have what is your org structure today? You are a PM, you're a head of the test prep product, right?
Mhm.
And you have APMs, PMs, other people, maybe a VP product also in your hierarchy, head of product. How does the structure look like? And you mentioned even an APM owns certain like
Absolutely.
metrics. How does that look like for you at Kpis?
Sure. So there is three verticals. There's test prep, there is counseling, and there is finance. The
Yeah.
major ones, or there are some newer ones that are coming up too. Pranal heads all of them,
Okay.
and then within test prep, so I kind of lead the whole product, and then there are two product managers who look at different aspects. So, for example, one product manager looks at speaking rooms, and one looks at crash courses. This
Got it.
changes according to the priorities of the company, but right now that's how it is.
Got it.
Then within counseling, there's one product manager who looks at the whole thing, and then there are three or four who break it down into different funnels, and each one owns a different funnel. And the same
So
is in,
probably 8, 10 product managers right now at your org.
yeah, 10 at
Okay.
most.
Yeah. And you guys are at Series C stage?
Series C stage, yes, but I think in our DNA, we're still a very early stage because we're only about, like, my team is a year old,
Right,
and one of the
right.
oldest. Most teams
Yeah,
are like 3, 4 months old. So,
right.
in terms of,
Growing really fast.
yeah.
Yeah. No, fair enough. Thanks for working. So, folks, you all got a slight idea, right? Even at early stage, this Padika is still calling her team very, very early stage,
Yeah.
which is fair enough, right? Which is
Yeah.
still a year old. So you get some insights into that. And they're growing super fast. Like I think Arnav shared earlier on also, they're probably India's largest community of folks who are probably studying abroad or wanting to go abroad to study. Uh, so lots of opportunities for growth. So if any of you all are interested beyond this as well, do check out the product. You also have one mini version of decks that are possible. One problem statement. You can probably figure out other problem statements as you explore the app. And I'm sure, I think Swadika is very active. I did share her Twitter handle on the chat section earlier as well, so do follow her. In the middle of all the fun posts that she posts, there are lots of insights that you will get. And yeah, with that we come to the end of this session. Tanya, Swadika, would love to hear some closing thoughts from your end as well on your experience. Tanya has been managing this end to end on the background. So Tanya, if you want to share what people should look forward to in the next session. And Swadika, I know it's been a month where you joined us for the AMA, and I remember this AMA, there were tons of questions that I scrolled through them post that. So very, very, I think it's been an engagement where both of you have been involved month long, right from the registrations to then the AMA, then helping people with the decks, lots of questions in between, submitting the decks, shortlisting the decks, and then today this live session. So the entire month there's tons of things happening. So first of all, thank you so much for your time. Even just this 2.5 hours today helped a lot of folks here understand insights into really how product management works about. And even the feedback that you shared for it, I think tons of insights there. Lots more questions, I think, coming in on the Q&A right now, but I know we're out of time. So I'd love to take this opportunity to hand it back to Tanya. We'd love to hear what's in store for next month. And for the couple, love to hear how your experience has been and some closing thoughts. Thanks again.
So it was a pretty amazing process all through the month, interacting with Spadika and all the participants as well. One thing that I would really like to mention was the amount of effort Spadika put in when we had that AMA on Slack. Everyone saw the number of questions that came in. Even Suhas agreed that this could be a different PRD altogether. So Spadika put in a lot of efforts to answer all those questions. So thanks for that as well. Hopefully everyone learned a lot today. The whole session was so insightful. And of course, the next month we'll have something similar, another product, the same process. But the learnings will obviously be 100-fold as usual. So yeah, we'll soon be announcing the next one. So stay tuned to all our social media handles. And you'll also get emails. So yeah, we make sure that it reaches you. It's you who has to take in the effort to register for the same and then do the work of making the decks. So yeah, so it's in your hands.
Yeah, and regardless of the winner, I think we just try to gamify it a little bit. But folks, the whole idea is coming together and just learning right throughout the month. You're putting your ideas, you're going through the app, you're creating the deck, and I can assure you, you will get better with every single. So even if you didn't make it to the top three this time, the learnings you got from this session, I think Spadika did share some feedback. Arnav and Pranal also shared feedback throughout the session. So take that feedback, and before the next session, try practicing. We still have lots of these decks up on our website. The top 3 decks go out on the website. So do check out those, and all the best for the next session. But yeah, Spadika, just before we drop off, we'd love to hear your experience and some closing thoughts if you have any.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for having me. So our app is like just a few months old, so it was really great to get feedback from product enthusiasts about it. And I'm sure keep checking out the app. We'll probably be incorporating some of your suggestions. We'll be shamelessly copying it because you really all put in so much thought into what we can do to make the app better. So really appreciate it. I had a great time. The energy here is really great, and always been a fan of the product folks and what you're doing to make product management more accessible to people. So thanks for having me, and have a good weekend.
Thanks, Padika, and all the best to you too as the app grows. Lots of new challenges, but I'm sure lots of folks in TPF would love to join you guys and help out in the process.
We are
So
hiring APM, so you can reach out to me, and we'll take it from there.
thanks so much. And folks, thank you so much for staying through this. I know it's been a long, long evening, but we do this once a month, and it's fun for us also because we learn a lot. You guys put in so much effort, and within this 2 hours, every time there are new ideas that come, new presentation, everything. I still remember a year ago when we did the first deck, right? Everything was so raw, people were learning, but just seeing the quality of the decks, the amount of effort each participant coming up with those frameworks and everything, putting it in there. So it's very exciting to see how you guys are also growing with each data. So all the best for the next one, and we will see you around. Thank you.